everyone. Welcome to this second day of this 10th anniversary of ChileDay. Today, we will start with a panel called From Chile to the UK Entrepreneurs. I'm pretty sure some of you have heard about how Chilean startup and scale-up ecosystem has been growing in the last few years. As a Chilean, this is something to be proud. It's important to have in mind that we have 3 unicorns in our country, that despite only 1% of the companies in Chile are scale-ups, these have created more than or around 40% of the new jobs in our country. And of course, I have to mention Startup Chile, the first public accelerator in Latin America that today is the leader in the region and that has supported more than 2,000 companies. Today, I'd like to introduce Mike Jackson, who is the deal maker in the Global Entrepreneur Program of the DIT, Department for International Trade. So he, with his wide experience in the innovation sector in the UK, will be leading the conversation today with our 5 panelists. So, Mike, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So I think events like this are really important because in the UK, we are very, very, very keen to attract scaling tech companies of all types into the UK. And my job, on behalf of the Department for International Trade, is to facilitate that move of companies and to help those companies. I also have to assess those companies when first introduced to see if they're ready to move, because not every company is ready to move to the UK. And although the UK is a great home market for lots of businesses and lots of sectors, leading in AI, leading in fintech, growing rapidly in clean tech and health tech, it's a very competitive market. In my previous role, I was responsible on behalf of the government for a national support program for scaling tech companies. And there are lots of great scaling tech companies. What's interesting is just under half of those companies that we dealt with, which are British companies now, were founded by overseas-born founders. So we've got a long history. And if you look at Revolut and other big names, they're founded by entrepreneurs who moved to the UK. So what we have today is some great companies that are on that journey, either just starting that journey or have been established for a couple of years in the UK. So we're going to hear their stories. We're going to then find a little bit of common ground of what's been interesting about the move to the UK, what's been challenging, what's been an opportunity, and we'll see where that takes us. So we're going to start with just a quick introduction, 5 minutes from each company to tell you their story of where they are, what their kind of position in the tech sector is, and what their kind of position in that scaling curve from startup to scale up to growth stage. Okay, we're going to start here.
Thank you, Mike. Well, I'm Rodrigo. I work at Medible. Medible, it's a tech enabler company which is in the market for 8 years now. We are operating nowadays in 10 different countries, helping companies to adapt their offer and acquire those right technology in order to enhance their services, enhance their offers to their clients. So our clients are usually big service companies such as bank, insurance companies, utility companies that have understood that by enhancing their digital platforms, their digital experience, they tend to raise their customers' loyalty, their customer satisfaction, and also for sure raise their share of wallet and penetration of products in those audiences. So after being operating 10 different countries, we've seen that UK, we were ready to come to UK, and UK was and still is a great country to be into. Since from the beginning, we are getting a really great support from the DIT team, supporting us to land our company here with different programs and different entrepreneurs. So we are quite excited to start this path in this new country to us, and willing forward to have great results. And besides of that, we are starting a new spin-off that's called Dado, which is a company that it's a platform based on artificial intelligence, which is helping to coach and to enhance the capabilities of our clients to face the digital transformation. Because the digital transformation is not just by buying technology. You are digitalized. It's not at all. You have to put the people in the core of this process. So with the experience of Medibly, we have understood that the people it's a key factor to the success of the digital transformation. So we are creating now this new spin-off and also willing to open it here in the UK.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
I think next in order, we're slightly out of order in the seats, but is Jorge.
Thank you. I think I'm a bit out of age here. I think I'm older than the panel. And that's also because I started much earlier here in the UK. So I started when there were no accelerators or anything, or a few venture capitals in London. And that was in 2010. I founded a company called Health Unlocked, which is a social network for patients. And basically, millions of patients come every day to share experiences with other patients in around 700 condition-specific communities, covering more than 350 conditions. The platform became the largest social platform for patients in the world. We expanded to the US, where we've been operating for 5 years. And we started integration into healthcare systems like the NHS, where we are integrated into 150 hospitals, 150 GP surgeries, and it became a sort of a parallel self-care system, we call it. The company was acquired by a company in America, Correvitas, about 1 year ago. So we went through the M&A process, which was very insightful, and we sold in the middle of the pandemic, which was also very interesting. And I actually exited completely the company last week, so I'm now starting new things.
You have to take that off the slide.
Yeah.
Fantastic. That's a really interesting journey, and we'll no doubt come into that. Mm-hmm. So now, Augustin, you've got a prop as well.
Yeah, you want to try the bike, Mike?
Not quite to the moment.
So, thank you for the invitation and for being in this panel. I'm Agustin Ilizarti, I'm the CEO and founder of Human Forest. Before Human Forest, I started another company in South America with other friends. It's called Cabify, so we have like 10 years of experience in micromobility. And the idea behind Human Forest, it is quite different from the previous company. And this is like same as in a forest, trees capture CO2. In Human Forest, people using our truly green and free e-bike, we avoid emitting CO2. So that's the main idea of the concept. And just to give an example, after this panel, I will have to come back to the office. And it is like 3 miles away from here, so I have like 3 options to go. The first one, it is by tube, that it will take me like 20 minutes. The second one, in a taxi, that it will take me like approximately 20 or 25 minutes because of the traffic. And also, I will have to pay like 15 pounds, something like that. And the amount of CO2 that car will emit is approximately 1 kilo. So if I choose a Human Forest bike, first of all, it is free. So that's amazing. And also, because you have 10 minutes free and no locking fee, and also, we will save the same amount of 5 trees captured in 1 day. So it is quite a different, so imagine if everyone uses this bike, we are going to be a real forest. But what is behind the business model? Because we need to be a sustainable company, and sustainable company means that you also need to have profits. So they call us like the Spotify of micromobility, because after and before each ride, you receive an in-app notification for brands that are aligned to our vision. Like, for example, we're working now with Bloomberg, Nutmeg, Oldbox. We used to work also with Whole Foods. So at the end, we are creating this social impact platform that will allow us to give more free mobility in different type of service. So yeah, we're super excited about this company. We started 1 year ago with a trial with 200 e-bikes in Islington, and now we have like almost 800 e-bikes around the city, Islington, and some other boroughs here in London, and 1,000 more bikes coming reforest this beautiful city. And we're expecting to grow next year with 4,000 more e-bikes. So also we're starting a new fundraising round. So happy someone is interested in this project and want to help us to reforest not only London, other cities around the world. So yes, that's human
Great.
forest.
And we were saying that the choice of colours is very UK. British racing green almost and brown leather is a classic combination for those that are into their cars in the past.
We didn't want to shine like other operators because we want to be like a forest. So that color, like people feel like it is their own bikes and. Yeah,
I see the connection now.
Yeah,
I hadn't got that.
Yeah. So we were nominated to one of the most important brand in mobility sector. So we're super happy with the results, and of course, I will want to say thanks to the whole team that behind Human Forest.
Fantastic, great. Now I think it's Damien.
Hi, thank you for the invitation, Mike. I'm Damian Gellerstein. I'm the founder and CEO of Abacus. Abacus is fintech and a fintech enabler for B2B, for asset managers, banks, family offices. And we provide several products and services to these financial institutions that allows them to be more technological in these days. I think large banks and asset managers are lagging behind their technological background, and we help them in some ways to be more, to automatize, their processes in a more efficient way. And we are focused in products that are usually made by hand and and they're very prone to error. And we have very little competition, so I just got here in the UK a couple of months ago and looking for asset managers, and in Chile we are very well established. We work with 5 out of the 7 largest financial institutions there. We have several clients in the US also, and we're looking now for an expansion in the UK and the rest of Europe. The thing is that there's very little companies that work in the fintech sector and in some parts of the investment industry that allows companies to automatize these things like risk management or compliance. And usually these services are super expensive and they're not tailor-made for these clients. And we provide more tailor-made solutions for them. And that's why we're being so successful in Chile and the US.
Great, thank you. Fandy, Juan.
Thanks, Mike, for the invitation. I am Juan Pablo Echenique. I am a founder and technical director of a company called Reoptimize Systems. So Reoptimize is a company that develops a new software that helps wind turbines specifically to make it more efficient and reliable. So our software takes all the data from the turbine and has a physical model of the turbine. It matches the behavior of the turbine, and then it provides new recommendations to the owners of these wind turbines. And without any software, without any new hardware, actually, we can improve the performance by 6%. Now, 6% might be a very small number for you, but actually in the wind sector, if you increase the energy yield of a turbine by 6%, you're basically doubling the profit for the operator of the turbine. And as an example, in a 100 megawatt wind farm, a typical wind farm, 6% improvement means that the owner is going to get £1 million extra every year. And that's only in terms of energy performance. But we also have done pilots projects with different operators here in the UK, in Italy, and Germany. And we discovered that also we reduced the number of failures on the turbines. Yeah, so we can keep these turbines operating for much longer, and we can also increase the lifetime of the assets. So that's another huge benefit. And the key differentiator of our technology is that we apply like a global optimization into the system. We don't optimize the things in isolation. we also adapt into the local conditions. Like every turbine will face different wind conditions, and we can adapt the turbine to these conditions as well. And the other thing that we take into account that which is very important is the aging of the component. So the brain of the turbine is learning that the machine is aging and is changing the settings, and that can avoid huge breaks. Like for instance, I mean, as a good example, I always talk about this, but I used to be a good football player. And then I was 36 years old, and I was playing with my nephews, and I broke my ankle because I thought I was a 10-year-old guy that could jump. So in the turbines, it's a similar thing. So we can apply this knowledge of aging as well. So we have run different pilots. I mean, we are a very early stage company. Please don't think that we are all over the world. It's only a 5-people company. We are a Scottish startup. My heart is in Chile, and one of the key goals that I have is to move the company to Chile as well. So we're going to do the opposite roadmap of most of the startups. Maybe it's crazy, I don't know. Also, I don't have an entrepreneurial background. I used to be in the academia for a long time. I did a PhD. When I finished my PhD, I handled the thesis to my supervisor, and he read for the first time. He learned what I was doing, actually, and said, I think there is a huge commercial opportunity in this work. Why don't you try to set up a business, and I can give you some support at the university. And I was a naive guy saying, oh yeah, this is amazing, I'll do it. Of course, it was a long road, and we had to fight against the skepticism of many people, because if you say to a guy like Vestas or Siemens, actually we can improve the performance by 6%, they say, come on, you just left a PhD, or you are a small startup. We have invested $100 million every year in innovation in our wind farms. So how is it possible that we have overlooked something like a 6% improvement? So that thing, it took a while, and we had to start very small. We had to start with tiny machines, 20 kilowatts, 100 kilowatts, and now we are doing 2 megawatts. And it sounds easy, but obviously there was a huge work, and also finding the right people as well. Like I am Chilean, I have a completely different culture, and we don't sometimes understand the different cultures. So there is something in the spoken language that maybe is not representative of all the thoughts on the minds of the people. And that is also, it was a challenge, you know, in terms of finding the right people to meet the team. But in the end, I feel very proud of people working with me, because they all believe in this idea. They could have thought that I was absolutely crazy. And also then finding investors, we went to the wrong type of investors, I think, until we found engineers, wealthy engineers that wanted to play with some stuff, you know, and they put some money in our company, and they believe it. So thanks to them, we are in the position now to raise more money, etc. But it's been a huge journey. I don't recommend it. I think after I finish the PhD, I should have.
Well, I think we've got some good points there to dive into, definitely.
No, I mean, I see all these successful guys. I hope that we can be at some point at that stage, but it's going to take.
No, the journey is hard.
The journey is hard.
Yeah,
And it is, I think that, you know, what we've got here is a really fantastic representative section of companies, you know, covering those strong sectors for the UK economy that I talked about earlier of, you know, got two, in essence, climate techs, mobility. We've got fintechs, we've got B2B, and we've got health. And those are the sectors, and I'm sure some of you have got AI, you know, built in. AI, as I always say, is not really a sector, it's a technology. It's an underlying technology, as blockchain is. So I think we couldn't have a better selection. Now, there is something you might notice about this panel, and in fact about me myself. We're all male. And in the UK, for some of you coming from outside cultures, that's become quite problematic to present on stage an all-male environment. And it's not because we're apologising for being male or any of those kind of things. It's simply, it's not setting a good example to female entrepreneurs who may look at a panel like this and say, well, actually, is it going to be hard for me? So I know that you've got a female founder actually in your company. So, you know, in future, when you see panels, particularly in the UK, you will see a more diverse selection of people on stage. So we apologise for that, but we have to move forward and recognise it. The good news is, having worked with over 800 companies in the UK in the last 2 or 3 years on behalf of Tech Nation, we actually achieved a 50-50 gender split of founders, which was a big push to kind of present that to the world, and that's very important. And another factor that we've got here is that not all of these companies are based in London. And we've just heard about Augustin's company, George's company based in Edinburgh. And tech in the UK is about 50% of the companies in tech are based in London for great reasons. London is our world city. We're actually right in the centre of the city of London, where it all started. And we're not apologetic for that. But there is tech in all corners of the United Kingdom. And part of, again, my job was to make sure that if you were a company in Northern Ireland, a company in Wales, a company in Scotland, or a company in any of the great regions of the UK, you could feel supported and helped to grow in just the same way as if you were in the centre of London. So it's great to have, and someone's based in Cheshire? No? Who could possibly be based in Cheshire? But there are companies, you know, that are growing in fantastic regions. So part of my role when I'm talking to companies coming into the UK is to just sometimes open their eyes to the fact that London isn't always the best place. But equally, if you are a fintech and your customers are literally outside this fantastic building, then London is definitely the best place to be. So it's a balance in all these things. So I think we've got quite a lot to talk about. We've also got some very different levels of kind of experience of the UK in terms of time. So we've got kind of a 10, 11-year journey and also going up through the full cycle of sale and exiting the business. And then we've got just literally been in the UK for a few months. And as I discovered looking at the website is still in Spanish.
Yes.
So that's the kind of starting point for a company coming in. So who wants to pick up, I guess, a question I'm always interested in as someone who's always been here and you know knows the ecosystem well. What's kind of surprised you about the UK ecosystem, the UK tech ecosystem, whether it's for investment, hiring, you know, issues you touched on? That's been something that you go, I didn't expect that coming in. It didn't appear to be like that. Augustin, you seem to...
Yeah, well, the truth is that when I was after 8 years working back in Cabify, I decided to stop. I came to London I did a master in data science. And when I was here, I was really impressed with the city. It's a beautiful city, so I didn't want to use the tube. And there was no option. I was impressed that London, it is a huge city, and if you, like the numbers, you have less than 50 type of micromobility hardware per 10,000 inhabitants. If you compare that number with Paris, with Milan, Barcelona, German cities, it is like 4 times more there. So it was like a huge need in terms of micromobility here in London. So I was thinking like, why is this difference between London is a huge city, why? So I started doing some research about it and figured out that there was some political things related to boroughs license. So there were stands opening, and we took the opportunity and we said, like, guys, this is something that we can do, and there is a huge need. Why do not try? And of course, there are other players that are much bigger than us, like other operators, but we have something different, something unique, and we wanted to attack with something super affordable for users, a value for users. So we started this journey, and it was at the beginning just an idea. And then we started like talking with boroughs, starting the company, and it was like a super smoothly process. And of course, during the journey, it is up and down, up and down, up and down, 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 up, up, down. It's like that. But again, for us, it was the opportunity of micromobility in London. And I really believe that our business model, how it works, how it's built, using partners that are aligned with the same vision, it will help us to achieve this goal to reforest cities and give like free mobility and sustainable mobility to everyone. And the other difficult part of starting this type of company was the hardware. During the trial we had a different one, and we realized that we need to have a proper hardware. For example, with a long-range battery, so we can manage the operation very efficient, so we can compete with price. And yeah, and again, it has been a beautiful journey, and I really believe that people in London really want to move in e-bikes, and it is the solution now. And as you can see, like what's going on in cities, it is the congestion chart now. It is like quite big. So the only solution, not the only, but one of the best solutions I believe for the last mile, it is e-bikes. So again, I think that London has a huge opportunity, and we want to take it.
Yep. And I think the UK is often seen, and we actually promote the UK as an early adopter society. We try lots of things. The challenge is getting to scale, and actually going beyond the trial and the proof of concept and getting beyond that. And I think you're talking about wind turbines. We've got the largest wind farms in the world, and we've pioneered that. Although it's an interesting fact that very little of the wind farm technology is made or produced in the UK at the moment. We're just starting to get better in that. But again, how do you move beyond that proof of concept? How do you convince those doubting companies like Vestas and Siemens and others to do that? And the choice of Edinburgh as a base in Scotland is unusual as well for companies that are coming into the UK.
Yeah, I mean, in our sector, I think it's quite difficult, because if you want to have a business with a big operator, let's say, I don't want to mention a name, but think about Endesa in Chile. You need to have something called track record. And if you're a startup, basically you have no history. So, and I learned from a Chilean entrepreneur, female Chilean entrepreneur, that was working in a similar environment in solar energy. She was doing similar stuff of predicting the performance or predicting generation of solar panels. But she said that they had to do some work for free, basically, in the beginning, just to demonstrate the capabilities of the startup. And I guess that's what we have been doing initially here. It's not absolutely for free, but try to show to a big team that actually we have some skills that they don't have, and we have spent a few amount of time focusing on this tiny thing that actually makes a huge difference on performance. So I think that's the way to enter. And then also trying to find guinea pigs. Is that people that wants to take risk? They want to try new things, and they don't mind if you break a turbine. Yeah. Well, fortunately, so far, we haven't break a turbine, and actually we are doing the opposite. But yeah, that's. And I think someone also told me that you have to form like a club of friends, different companies. Try to establish a strong relationship with them, because those people are going to help you actually to take your startup forward. And then the support of the university, I think that was quite important. I think now in Chile the universities are really connecting with the industry, and knowledge transfer is a big thing now. But maybe 10 years ago it wasn't like that. And here for instance, I was coming from Chile, and they recognized that the IP, the intellectual property that I was developing, was actually owned by me and not by the university. But I know that in Chile it wasn't the case. So if you don't own your IP, then you have less incentive to start a new business. Yeah.
Yeah,
and it's also more difficult to get investment as well. So that's another thing that really helped in this country. But I think in Chile it's also going towards that direction.
Yeah, and it does vary in the UK. So there are some enlightened universities who, IP share generously with founders, and then there are others which try and control it a little bit more, and they'll find it harder as they try and raise money and grow. So it's not perfect, but it's definitely, I think it's more mature in the UK than in many different countries. And there's quite a lot of good learnings there. That networking thing We are in the UK very networked within our kind of clique. So within Edinburgh, there's a real community feeling. And in Edinburgh, you can find talent, you can find finance, you can find advisors, professional advisors that are really experienced. But if you go just 70 miles across to Glasgow, you might find it harder to find those things. There's less in Glasgow. So the choice of location to be based is still a crucial one from that point of view. And I think you mentioned earlier about hiring talent and growing, and the talent situation in the UK, has been affected by COVID, as it has everywhere. It's also been affected a little bit by Brexit. We're just starting to see that now. But there's a big push from the UK government to really make sure that talent that's going to be needed by companies like these, whether it's marketing and sales talent or whether it's AI talent and programmers and developers, we're going to bring the homegrown talent out of the universities and make sure that they're being taught the right kind of subjects in the right way to make them ready for work. So there's a big push to make sure that happens. It's a kind of 3 to 5 year process, but it will help.
Also, just some small comment that what London has is that if you are successful in one of the sectors, it's easy to scale it after for other cities or scale the business. So, for example, in the transport industry, London has been leading for many years. So, if we are able to success here, it's going to be easy to launch in different other cities around the world.
Yeah, and I think, again, individual cities have individual strengths. So if you're in kind of turbines and clean tech, London is definitely not the place to be. But it might be, if you're into wave technologies, it might be Cardiff or Northern Ireland, because they're building their own barrages and doing various things. Let's talk a little bit about fintech. And we're here right in the heart of the City of London and fintech. Now, your journey has only just started. You said you just moved.
That's right.
Literally a few months, weeks ago.
Yeah. So first of all, I do B2B. Okay. So my story is very similar than yours because first of all, you need to to build like a club. I think in Chile was the same. My first client, I did with a loss, like a financial loss, because that's the way to push the industry in order to work with companies like us. I think in that sense, we started almost 7 years ago, like 6 years and a half, and when we started talking about fintech in Chile and South America, nobody was talking about that, and opening that path was very hard. Now it's easier once you have a couple of clients, but the sales cycle is very long. When you work in the B2B business, the first client took me 2 years to close, and I hope here it will be shorter because, of course, you have like maybe the most developed fintech industry in the world. I was reading the Khalifa report, a fintech financial industry report. There's between 2,500 and 3,000 companies fintech companies in the UK, and they're showing like an annualized growth rate of 16 times larger than other small businesses in the UK. So it's a business that is flourishing, and that also put a lot of pressure on the current banks and the older financial institutions. So I think there's a huge opportunity there for growing. But now I have to figure out how to deal with the different local culture and with these long life cycles that the B2B business is used to it. So because I might not have 2 years to close my first client here. So yeah.
And I think that's where the kind of the networking point comes in, doesn't it? That certainly within in London, there will be a fintech event every single night of the week that you could go along to. And I'd encourage you to do that in initial and just network as much as you can and find those people. And although, yes, it's a very developed fintech culture and it's still the second or third largest capital market in the world, it's very competitive.
So there will almost always be another 2 or 3 companies doing exactly what you're doing in exactly the same way. And you have to work out what's your USP and what's your kind of slice of the market, whether it's a vertical or a horizontal.
Yeah.
But good luck on the journey. And
thank you.
We'll certainly try and help.
Looking forward, yeah. Thank you.
Now, to turn to you, Rodrigo, you really surprised me the other day. We had a kind of little pre-call just to be introduced. And you were flying in from Italy.
Yes, from Rome, yeah.
And you'd started your kind of journey out of Chile in Italy.
Yeah, we've started in Latin America, in Colombia, El Salvador, Guatemala, Argentina, Bolivia, a bunch of countries in there. And here in Europe, we have started off our operations in Italy. And it was really frustrating. Not just, Italy is really difficult country to do business. It's not, it's really close to new ideas. It's really close to different opportunities to foreign companies. They are really proud, and I value that. That's great that they made in Italy. They for sure they have amazing traditions. But when it comes to do business and the startups or entrepreneur in Italy, it's quite hard. It's quite hard, and that's what we found here differently here in the UK, and we expect to be able to exploit more, because so far we have seen spaces that, like this event or other get around people from the fintech, edutech, health tech, that doesn't really happens in there's not really that much in Italy. But here in UK we are finding a much more booming ecosystem that is that have understood that's the future. If those bank companies do not understand that the fintech is the future, they will die. I mean, there's no other way around. So, and I see us as a country that have understand that that's a key a factor to develop the strength of the country, of the university, the ecosystem, to bring those new ideas, to bring those new business models, in order to lead the future. Generations of the future will be dramatically different from nowadays, as we are different from the past. So if companies, well-established B2B companies, most of all, if they don't perceive that and they don't start to taking risks, I do share this part of to get to our business model is always B2B, and it's not that easy to get this sort of clients. And shame on them. I mean, they expect startups to run on losses so they can save monies on their turbines. That's absurd. Well, I'm not getting too much into that, but I think that it has to change, and I'm seeing that conversations like this, programs of the governments that that believe truly that this is the future, invest in companies like this, are trying to gain some sort of opportunity to lead the future. So. We are really, we don't have operations here yet. We are expecting to open in Birmingham because of the Netflix Peaky Blinders. No, not because of that. It's also a great series. But we are expecting to open there because of the booming ecosystem in the universities and the talents, and also the opportunities that we've seen there in the region, much more easier to establish and to start than here in London, and it's quite close to it. So we are learning from all the experience of people that we are sharing. Thank you everybody for the information, for the feedbacks, and you are willing to be able to grow from here, to be able to share also our experience, our valuable experience that we have done in other 10 different countries, that for sure come to summarize or come to add on the value or on the experience that has here in the UK.
Great. Well, that's a great story to you know, we're all still friends with our European neighbours. But there are certain countries which, notoriously are difficult to kind of establish and do business in, and Italy is one of those. There are other great countries. But we do believe in the UK that we have a uniqueness. Part of it is language, and I'm unashamed to say that we're very lucky we speak American in this country. And we have the advantage of our time zone position being in the center of the world time zones, which certainly helps. And then obviously the link to the US. And that link has only grown stronger actually over the last few years. And for a lot of companies, I'm sure for many of you, the largest potential market will be the US market. But it's a very hard market to enter directly. And being dare I say it, a British company does give advantages. There's an instant element of trust. And it's no surprise that if you're looking at investment into tech companies in the UK, the seed investments that many of you will be either having or have already had will come from the UK, from individuals and from funds in the UK. The Series A investments, kind of 5 to 10 million pounds or dollars, will come from a mix of UK investors and perhaps some early stage US investors. But the Series B investment, the 30, the 50, the 100 million, will come from the US. And that's a huge advantage for the UK. And we take roughly 75% of all US overseas investment in tech comes into the UK. And that's a colossal figure. So it's an advantage, we play on that. And I think now it's fine, we're going to open to questions from the floor in a second, but let's now talk about the end of the story, the growth story, which sounded fantastic over this 10 years, and now exit. Give us some insights into that.
It's 10 years. I don't know, I think people, me at least, or entrepreneurs, you forget all the pain and you just remember some things and you carry on and do the next one. So this is the story of growing. We started when there were nothing like this, either technology or healthcare. Healthcare in this country as well is a cultural, the NHS is a cultural, political institution that is very well protected as well. So we were disrupting a very core national industry. And as we went, we started to invent everything. And I think the key thing, you mentioned the competitiveness here. I think in comparison to Chile or to Latin America, I guess, this is way, I mean, to a different level of magnitude in terms of competitiveness. And that competitiveness goes for talent, for the products that you sell, for the investment that you get. And that also is very rooted in the, I think this is more structural, but is the respect for the rule of law and how you have to behave, which is very good when you're an immigrant and with no connections, because that allows you to have same chances than everybody else, and you suffer like everybody else. But to the day, I don't know, I have had thousands of meetings in the last 10 years, and still I meet new people. And you say, well, who this guy came from? And it has an incredible background, great knowledge, maybe great capital, and that is very different here. Now, in terms of the whole journey and the acquisition, I think our platform, our technology and company was very versatile. So it was really interesting because when we went into the M&A process with a bank that we hired, we could have been bought by very different players in the healthcare industry. So you have to go and understand what the value that you're bringing to each of them. So you have a kind of a PhD on the market, on the industry, and also how it is evolving, because everything is evolving very rapidly now. And I think things don't happen in the way that they happen because you have COVID, because you have loads of different things. But I think the business of building a company and selling a company, integrating that company, keep growing the vision and the concept is a never-ending iteration of your learning, the products, the teams, it always changes. And I don't think that stops when you sell, like in my case. You just keep doing it. It's inevitable. You want not to do it, but you keep doing it. So I think, yeah, and we were sold in America as well, which was a very interesting thing because it's a very different culture from the integration point of view, cultural point of view, and also we were in pandemic, so I never met the people that I actually sold the company to, and we integrated into thousands of people without ever meeting anyone. So that's very unique, but that shows you that this is like that all the time. I don't see that challenge as much more harder than when we were starting and having other challenges. It's just a continuous of challenges.
Yeah. And I think that whole journey, that's life cycle from startup to scale up to growth stage to exit, whatever that exit is, whether it's IPO or trade sale, we're seeing that every day now in the UK. So companies that I remember as a scrappy startup, the next time you hear they've raised $30 million in a Series B, and you go, wow, that's great. And then, seemingly in the next blink of an eye, they've just sold for $100 million, or they're being acquired by a larger company. And that churn, and exactly as you say, the entrepreneurs are often young, and they're often still hungry, and they'll move back into their next company, and they start their next journey, which is great. So we've got quick 5 minutes for any quick questions from the floor. Anyone got a question for the panel? I can see a gentleman right at the back. We just get a microphone for you.
Hi. I'm going to go for English so everyone understands. Chris Pullman from Learning Capital. I'm very keen to understand from Damian and Abacus the adoption of cryptocurrency for transactions as a portfolio diversification or as an alternative asset in Chile.
So a question about crypto. There's bound to be one in every... It used to be blockchain, now it's crypto.
Yeah, so we usually work with the traditional asset management industry, but we're open to, because we develop a lot of tailor-made solutions for different clients. So we are a fintech enabler in that sense, and we're willing to develop different products with the clients. Yeah.
Fantastic.
So, yeah, we're pretty flexible.
Which you need to be.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, we're going to come to the end of our time slot. I'd like to thank everyone on the panel. It's been a fascinating discussion. As always with these discussions, we've only really scratched the surface. And I think we'll all be around kind of when we get to the coffee break and lunch to talk in more detail, and I'm guessing there may be more insights you can get from this. And if anyone in the room is a company looking at moving into the UK and wants to talk about that journey, then I'm here to help with that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mike, and all our panelists for this excellent conversation. Now, to have some final remarks to this panel, I would like to invite the state the British government for Chile, Argentina, Colombia, and Peru. So, Mark, please come to the stage.
As it was pointed out, I'm the trade envoy for Chile, Colombia, Peru, and Argentina. And people often ask me, which one's your favourite country? And I haven't got any children, but if I had 4 children, I would tell them I love them all equally. The truth is, Chile was the first country that I went to as a trade envoy, so it has a very, very special place in my heart. But, thank you very much for inviting me here today, and I'm delighted to be able to join you for what has been, again, another fantastic Chile Day. It was great to hear from the entrepreneurs, and my mind was going all the way through, not coming up with ideas of innovation or to try and emulate their success, but what we can do here in the UK to make them even more successful. And I've got news for Juan Pablo from Reoptimize. I mean, he thinks he's going to leave the UK. He thinks he's going to go back to Chile. Not on your Nelly. If I've got anything to do with it, we want you to stay in the UK. We want to grow your business in the UK. We want you to be very successful in the UK, to make lots of money, to employ lots of people, to export internationally, to be a beacon where not just other Chilean companies, but companies across the globe look at your success and think, we want a bit of that too. So you may have a holiday home in Chile, you may retire in Chile, but we want you to stay here and be very, very successful here in the United Kingdom. But getting back to my speech, when the officials write your speech, they give you permission to ad-lib. Well, I've just ad-libbed, so I'll go back to the official speech to give. But the UK-Chilean relationship is a very, very strong one. It's a relationship that is based on, in many respects, a partnership of equals. Yes, our economies are different sizes, but by goodness, we have so much in common. And, Chile was the first country in the world to sign a trade continuity agreement with the UK after we left the European Union. Chile is now Britain's third largest trading partner in the LATAC region, worth $1.4 billion in 2020. And with our two economies closely entwined across a range of industries, from infrastructure, healthcare, tech, communications, our nations could not and really should not be anything than very, very close together. So it's vital that we continue to work side by side to unlock the shared potential. On climate change, our commitment is as one. It's a cause that is now more important than ever before as we build back better from the economic impacts of the global pandemic, to deliver cleaner, greener, more sustainable economies that are fit for the future. Britain led the way in championing the cause of green trade during the COP26 climate conference that we hosted in Glasgow, which followed in the footsteps of COP25 in Chile. And the quest for clean growth will be forged at the heart of our trade policy going forward as we mobilise £12 billion of investment to build a green industrial revolution here in the UK. And I know that Chile has its own ambitious green growth agenda as you build the infrastructure that is critical to long-term sustainability. And our economies can partner together in pursuit of our mutual ambition to become net zero economies by 2020, working side by side to develop and implement the green technologies that will make this happen, from renewable energy to sustainable construction and precision agriculture. As ever, access to finance will be key to unlocking growth. And with Britain the world's second largest exporter of financial services, the biggest global centre for green finance, we are the perfect partners for Chile in harnessing its green growth potential. Fintech. We can develop our trade ties, likewise in fintech, a sector in which Chile is growing its presence in Latin America, in which the UK is already a global leader, with over 2,000 different fintech headquarters based here in London, the highest number worldwide, and a talent base of over 480,000 professional developers. Britain offers diverse capabilities in this field as you cement Chile's place as a financial services hub. Now, cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is something that I'm very, very passionate about, and in fact, on my second visit to Chile became the main focus of my theme. And many of those conversations back in early 2018, there were many Chilean organisations, a lot of them governmental, some of the big mining companies, actually felt that they were doing enough in cybersecurity, or that cybersecurity wasn't a priority, or that cybersecurity wasn't a threat. I'm very, very glad to say that that has now changed, and it's changed quite quickly, because every business, large or small, whether you're infrastructure or financial services, in mining, retail, cybersecurity really, really matters. It matters for your business, and it matters to protect your company. And Britain has, I think, the most advanced cybersecurity capabilities of any country in the world. With our exports in this sector worth $4.2 billion last year, we want to make sure that we work in close partnership with Chile to protect your businesses, your growth, your customers, your reputation. And we have made expanding this industry a priority in the face of growing threats, whether from data theft, cyber attacks, or interference in digital trade flows. Everyone in this room has got responsibility for cybersecurity, and whether you're a big company, an entrepreneur, startup, regardless of who it is, come and speak to the UK. We want to help you. We want to protect you. Open banking. Demand for instant access to financial data and financial transparency is rocketing amongst companies and consumers worldwide, with PwC forecasting that more than 70% of SMEs in the UK will use open banking to manage their finances by the end of 2022. British banks are working with the UK's tech industry to develop secure solutions for delivering accessible data and moving money quickly and safely at the click of a button. British and Chilean innovators must join forces to hone this technology together. After all, with Chile, one of Latin America's most important tech hubs, and the UK, the tech capital of Europe, with a startup and scale-up ecosystem valued at more than $580 billion, we are already creating and implementing many of the high-tech, low-cost solutions to other economic challenges we face, from strengthening our digital infrastructure to delivering tech-based aids for mining, manufacturing, and infrastructure. CTP accession. A major stepping stone to boosting UK's trade with Chile is for the UK to join the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership. I'm glad they wrote it out, because even now I still struggle with the short version. This partnership embodies the high standards that Britain and Chile both support in global trade agreements. We and Chile are consistent in making sure that international trade adheres to all the values that we in this room share. And I would like to thank Chile for consistently backing the United Kingdom's accession. Britain's membership would spur growth by removing barriers between our markets and providing fresh opportunities for British and Chilean businesses alike. We are standing at a crossroads in history, with countries worldwide experiencing a period of great change. With the UK embracing its newfound freedom as a sovereign trading nation and Chile writing a new constitution, we must seize the moment to embrace the golden opportunities that lie before us and pushing the potential of this great economic partnership further and faster, building a freer, fairer, more sustainable future for trade and investment between Britain and Chile, and sharing the benefits that all this brings. Ladies and gentlemen, Chile and the UK are natural partners, and let's Chile Day go from strength to strength, and let's make sure that companies big and small, people already investing in the UK or investing in Chile, continue to see the benefits of that relationship. There is money to be made, there are friendships to be had, and by goodness, UK and Chile are perfect partners in doing just that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mark, for your words. Now we need just 1 minute to go to the next panel we have. So we reorder the stage now, and we start in 1 minute. Thank you so much.
which is a very important one. Michael Stott, who is the Latin American editor of the Financial Times, is going to interview the two economic advisors who've been designated for today by the two presidential candidates. So there will be Stephanie Griffiths-Jones, who is advising Gabriel Boric, and José Luis Daza, who's advising José Antonio Cast. I'd just like to say that Michael Stott has been a pillar of the Financial Times coverage of Latin America, extremely fair, objective, and well-informed coverage, and we greatly appreciate what he does. So, introduce Michael Stott.
Bueno, mil gracias, David, y bienvenidos a todos.
I meant to add, this panel is going to be in Spanish, so there is simultaneous translation, and there are earphones at the back for anyone who needs them.
Muchas gracias, David, y bienvenidos todos a este debate sobre la política económica de los dos candidatos presidenciales para la segunda vuelta chilena. Este debate lo vamos a hacer en español, va a ser transmitido en Chile para que los chilenos puedan escuchar lo que están diciendo los panelistas, ¿no? Entonces, voy a presentarles las personas que van a estar con nosotros virtualmente, en forma virtual. Son los asesores de los dos candidatos, como mencionó el embajador. Tenemos representando a Gabriel Boric, la profesora Stephanie Griffith-Jones. Bienvenida, Stephanie. Un placer tenerle aquí con nosotros. Stephanie Griffith-Jones es una economista muy distinguida, es profesora en el Instituto de Estudios para el Desarrollo de la Universidad de Sussex y ha tenido una larga carrera en la cual ha publicado más de 25 libros, ha liderado muchos proyectos de investigación internacional sobre temas financieros, la arquitectura financiera internacional, el financiamiento del desarrollo y asuntos macroeconómicos, y ha aconsejado a muchas entidades internacionales, incluyendo la Comisión Europea, el Parlamento Europeo y el Banco Mundial. Bienvenido, Stephanie. Y representando al candidato José Antonio Cast, tenemos con nosotros José Luis Daza, quien trabajó últimamente como Chief Investment Officer y cofundador de una empresa propia, QFR Capital Management, pero antes de esto trabajó en la banca internacional, estuvo muchos años en JP Morgan como jefe de la investigación de los mercados emergentes, trabajó también en Deutsche Bank y antes de esto fue representante en Asia del Banco Central chileno. Y algo que noté de los currículos es que nuestros dos economistas, ambos estudiaron economía en la Universidad de Chile. Es algo que tienen en común, ¿no? Luego los posgrados creo que fueron en otros lados, el señor Daza en Georgetown y Stephanie en Cambridge, pero tienen eso en común, la Universidad de Chile. Bueno, bienvenidos ustedes, y el formato que vamos a usar para este debate es que los dos economistas van a tener primero 5 minutos cada uno para exponer los principales puntos de los programas económicos de sus candidatos, y luego voy a pasar a entrevistarles un poco más a fondo sobre esas propuestas, y vamos a tener un debate, yo espero un debate riguroso, interesante, pero respetuoso, ¿no? Entonces, primero la profesora Stephanie nos quiere explicar un poco los puntos principales del programa de Gabriel Boric.
Muchísimas gracias, Michael, y muchísimas gracias a ChileDay, que creo que es una reunión súper informativa y constructiva, y muchas gracias a nuestro flamante embajador también por habernos introducido. Yo quiero presentar muy brevemente la propuesta del candidato Gabriel Boric, que yo creo que es una propuesta entusiasmante, no solo para la gente modesta, la gente joven, sino que yo creo que también para el sector privado. Yo creo que es una propuesta que tiene mucho para entusiasmar a empresarios tanto nacionales como extranjeros. Y quiero explicar por qué. Esta es una propuesta que quiere mejorar el bienestar, digamos, de la gran mayoría de los chilenos, pero además pone mucho énfasis en aumentar la inversión con el objetivo de lograr el crecimiento de mediano y largo plazo, que es la base para el bienestar futuro de todos los chilenos. Entonces, en la parte de mejorar, y lo quiere hacer en un contexto de una profunda responsabilidad fiscal. Yo cuando me he integrado hace varias semanas al comité asesor, me ha impresionado en lo personal el profundo compromiso que tiene la gente de ese grupo en mantener la responsabilidad fiscal. Y entonces, dentro de lo que se puede, es decir, lo que se puede financiar con impuestos, básicamente aprobados por un Congreso que va a tener una negociación importante, las prioridades serían mejorar el acceso y aumentar la calidad de la salud, mejorar las pensiones para hacerlas más dignas y pensando en una evolución gradual desde las AFP, pero sin disrupción al mercado de capitales. Nosotros es un tema que estamos preocupados. Dedicarse también más recursos en la medida de lo posible a la educación pública. Ahora, como decía, hay mucho énfasis en aumentar la inversión. En particular, la idea es tratar de duplicar el presupuesto público en innovación y desarrollo. Chile, dentro de los países de la OECD o de la OCDE, como dicen en Chile, es el que tiene más bajo como proporción del PIB la inversión en investigación y desarrollo. Solo 0,4 puntos por ciento del PIB. Entonces, la idea es, a través del periodo de gobierno, duplicar eso. Y en general, dentro de las medidas que se pueda, aumentar la inversión pública. Ahora, esta es una inversión pública que la vemos como una manera de complementar, apoyar y catalizar la inversión privada. Y también ampliar recursos en la medida de lo posible para, por ejemplo, la Corfo, que cumple a nuestro juicio una buena función, pero que tiene recursos demasiado limitados, sobre todo para apoyar la pyme, la innovación, etc. Y finalmente, focalizarnos en una transición a una economía ecológicamente sustentable. Yo creo que eso tiene dos elementos importantes. Uno es cumplir, ¿cierto?, con lo que se acaba de acordar hoy día recientemente en Glasgow, en el COP, pero también porque abre tremendas oportunidades para la economía chilena. Ustedes han tenido sesiones muy buenas sobre hidrógeno verde, está la energía renovable, solar, eólica en Chile, está la posibilidad del cobre verde. Entonces tenemos un gran potencial de inversión, de empleo, de exportaciones incluso. La Unión Europea entiendo que está interesada en la posibilidad de importar hidrógeno verde de Chile. Entonces tenemos ahí un gran potencial atractivo para los empresarios. Y perdón, se me olvidaba mencionar el litio, que además Chile es muy afortunado, muy bendecido en el sentido de tener ese recurso que va a ser tan clave en la electromovilidad y cuya demanda está aumentando en forma sostenida, así como el mismo cobre. También, por supuesto, la idea es tratar de apoyar con créditos a las pymes, donde sea necesario crédito a través de mecanismos como la Corfo, pero también tener inversiones conjuntas con las grandes empresas en estos grandes proyectos que mencioné. Creo que la situación de corto plazo en Chile es difícil. El gasto público aumentó en 30% este año. El déficit fiscal es muy alto. Va a ser un año complicado, sea quien gane. Pero creo que en el mediano y largo plazo, Chile tiene un gran potencial. Yo tengo mucha fe en eso. Por ejemplo, porque tiene una mano de obra bastante calificada, tiene un sector empresarial dinámico, tiene estos recursos que pueden ser exportados y generar mucho divisa y crecimiento. Y lo que necesitamos es paz social, paz política. Nosotros creemos que el programa de Gabriel Boric puede ayudar a mejorar eso, a tratar de asegurar eso, porque es absolutamente clave. Es una paz que sería buena principalmente para los ciudadanos, pero también para los inversionistas. Entonces nosotros creemos una reducción gradual, pero muy sostenida del déficit fiscal estructural. Y estamos pensando en una reforma tributaria que podría, por supuesto, si es que pasa por el Congreso, que hay que negociarla, que se acerque más a los estándares internacionales. Porque de nuevo, si comparamos con la OCDE, el nivel total de tributación en Chile es muy bajo, comparado con el promedio de la OCDE.
Terminando ya las declaraciones iniciales, porque los 5 minutos ya se acabaron, ¿no?
Ya, perdón.
Gracias.
Porque y además la distribución de la tributación es muy mala, porque hay mucho énfasis en tributación indirecta, que es mucho más alta en Chile que en la OCDE. Quería tal vez terminar diciendo que la reforma de pensiones, y sé que esta es una preocupación, va a significar un ahorro, un aumento pequeño pero importante del ahorro, porque se reducirían las comisiones que se cobran ahora y se mantendrían las reglas de inversión actuales, se mantienen las reglas de inversión actuales y la plata se invertiría a través de gestores de inversiones que funcionan bien en varios países como Australia. Y además creemos que el mercado financiero se desarrollaría más por desarrollo de nuevos instrumentos, porque, por ejemplo, vinculados a la actividad verde. Entonces, termino con esta nota, digamos, de bastante optimismo, de que lo que tenemos es un Chile potencial con mucho futuro, pero que lo que necesitamos es estabilidad social y política y justicia social, y creemos que con un gobierno como el de Gabriel Boric podemos asegurar eso, y nos estaríamos viendo en 4 años, ojalá con un Chile que esté creciendo, que esté pacífico y que esté generando riqueza y empleo. Muchas gracias.
Por las declaraciones iniciales, pasamos ahora a la campaña de José Antonio Cast. Y a ver si nos podría decir, por favor, José Luis, cómo le parece, nos explican un poco las declaraciones iniciales del candidato Cast en torno a la política económica.
Muy bien. Bueno, muchas gracias a todos por estar escuchándonos. Es un honor para mí estar frente a ustedes. Es un honor para mí compartir esta plataforma con Stephanie. Así que muchas gracias. El programa de José Antonio Cast presenta una clara bifurcación con respecto a lo que nos acaba de decir Stephanie y representa un giro en torno de las prioridades de política pública que han existido en los últimos años. El programa de José Antonio Cast está dirigido fundamentalmente a ayudar a la población mediante el crecimiento económico. Fuimos, por un periodo largo, uno de los países que más creció en el mundo, el país que más creció en Occidente. Fuimos, entre 1985 y el 2015, el país que más bajó la pobreza en el mundo. El que más bajó la pobreza en el mundo. Fuimos un país que sostenidamente mejoró la distribución del ingreso. Pero eso se interrumpió. Todo eso se interrumpió y quedamos en niveles inaceptables de inequidad, de salarios para los sectores más pobres, para nuestra población y de provisión de servicios en muchas áreas. Queremos volver a ser una de las economías más dinámicas del mundo. Necesitamos volver a restaurar el crecimiento de la productividad. Necesitamos restablecer el crecimiento de los salarios. Y necesitamos un Estado eficiente, efectivo, que tenga como misión principal enfocarse en los sectores más necesitados de la población. El programa que estamos elaborando es un programa que tiene como foco central el crecimiento basado en la iniciativa privada, no en decisiones políticas tomadas por políticos desde el Estado, en la iniciativa privada, incorporar todas las oportunidades que la tecnología nos ofrece en este momento. Un programa orientado fundamentalmente a utilizar los recursos del crecimiento para en forma efectiva, en forma eficiente, darle más oportunidades a los sectores más pobres. Es un programa que, centrado en el crecimiento, va a, como dije, incentivar la inversión privada eliminar las enormes cargas el sector estatal le impone a toda la población en la forma de regulaciones que realmente son frankensteinianas. Entonces, nosotros queremos tener una de las sociedades más dinámicas, un Estado moderno, eficiente, que ayude a los más pobres, que nos ayude a incorporar a toda la gran masa laboral de chilenos al mercado formal. Un Estado que se encargue de generar un sector privado con reglas eficientes, competitivas. Queremos que los jóvenes chilenos del sector tecnológico nos ayuden a aumentar la competencia, a meterle presión a la competencia a las empresas de Chile. Queremos un país en donde toda la población eventualmente tenga trabajos dignos, productivos, donde la ayuda del Estado esté totalmente dirigida a igualar las oportunidades y ayudarnos en esos periodos cuando el mundo nos trata mal. Una última cosa, hay mucha discusión sobre la distribución del ingreso. Esa distribución tiene dos elementos. Una parte de esto tiene que ver con la distribución del ingreso, del flujo. Nosotros pensamos que hay una enorme inequidad en la distribución de la infraestructura en nuestro país, lo que aquí en Chile llaman inequidad geográfica, inequidad regional, tengo entendido. Va a haber un esfuerzo y una oportunidad para hacer un esfuerzo masivo, transformacional en la infraestructura que tienen las poblaciones más modestas de nuestro país. En miles de cosas, áreas verdes, parques, caminos, integración de carreteras. El mundo, con tasas reales de interés muy bajas, nos permite a nosotros ser muy agresivos y audaces en el tiempo en todo esto. Todo esto enmarcado en un programa muy riguroso de estabilidad y de solvencia fiscal. Nos llevamos bastante tiempo trabajando en mucho detalle, con mucho énfasis en hacer cuadrar en forma responsable las cuentas fiscales de Chile y llevar al país a una sostenibilidad fiscal muy importante. Como objetivo central, déjenme reiterar antes de terminar rápido, nuestra apuesta es el crecimiento. Queremos eliminar las trabas que impiden el crecimiento. Gran parte de estas trabas vienen del mercado del Estado y nos vamos a enfocar en hacer una enorme reingeniería estatal que nos permita tener un Estado ágil. Así que,
gracias, José Luis. ¿Puede ir terminando ya las declaraciones iniciales, por favor?
Perfecto. La apuesta es crecimiento, crecimiento, crecimiento. Sí. Número 2, los recursos de crecimiento orientados fundamentalmente a lidiar con los problemas de los sectores más pobres, a lidiar con la distribución del ingreso, introducir competencia al sector privado. Y finalmente, perdón por esto, porque es muy importante, el mercado de capitales de Chile hoy está en un periodo extraordinariamente delicado. Prácticamente se ha secado el financiamiento del Estado. Tenemos que asegurarnos que la destrucción del mercado de capitales no ocurre. Así que voy a terminar ahí. Crecimiento, enfoque en los más pobres, competencia, flexibilidad y prosperidad a los chilenos a través de el aumento en la productividad. La historia nos muestra, sin crecimiento no hay progreso.
Muy bien. Bueno, muchas gracias, José Luis. Y ahora vamos a pasar un poco a las preguntas. Y creo que, bueno, como economistas expertos, ustedes ambos entienden la importancia del crecimiento. No se puede repartir una torta que no existe. Pero se trata aquí de un debate un poco a cómo Chile debería crecer, ¿no? Y para tornar eso un poco menos teórico, un poco más práctico, tal vez cada uno de ustedes me podría decir qué tipo de país es el modelo para el Chile que queremos ver en los próximos años, en los próximos 10 o 15 años. ¿Es un modelo tipo Estados Unidos? ¿Es un modelo tipo Francia? ¿Es un modelo tipo Corea? Stephanie, ¿cuál es su opinión debería ser el modelo para el crecimiento chileno?
Como excelente periodista, hace muy buenas preguntas, Michael. Yo creo que los modelos hay que mirar también a nivel sectorial y general cuáles son los países que mejor les ha ido. Yo sé que a José Luis le gusta mucho el este asiático, a mí también. Yo creo que Corea del Sur, por ejemplo, Malasia, son países que han tenido un crecimiento muy dinámico y muy sostenido. China también, digamos, en China hay problemas con el modelo político, pero el modelo económico ha generado una reducción de la pobreza dramática, 600, 700 millones de personas. También creo que hay elementos interesantes en Europa. Yo creo que la socialdemocracia europea, los modelos escandinavos, la misma Alemania, un modelo muy de libre mercado, pero con un diálogo muy sustantivo entre el sector privado, el gobierno y los trabajadores. Creo que y también una economía súper dinámica, alta inversión, alto nivel de exportaciones. Y también pienso un poco en Estados Unidos, en las medidas que está proponiendo el presidente Biden, algunas aprobadas, otras pasando todavía por el Congreso, pensando en una inversión masiva, por ejemplo, en energía verde, en infraestructura, en sectores particularmente en regiones más pobres. Yo creo que ese tipo de iniciativa es muy valiosa para Chile en la medida que tengamos los recursos para hacerlo. O sea, buscar lo mejor de las distintas experiencias históricas y geográficas y aplicarlas a la realidad chilena.
Gracias. José Luis, a su opinión, ¿cuál es el país modelo para Chile en los próximos años?
Muchas gracias. Yo creo que el país modelo para Chile es un Chile con ajustes a los que tenemos hoy. Y voy a tratar de clarificar. Es muy difícil poder comparar países que son dramáticamente distintos en sus diferencias. Toda la dinámica de Asia de los últimos 30 años ha estado en gran medida influenciada por el fenómeno chino, por la enorme convergencia china. Entonces, las circunstancias de Corea, de Singapur, de Hong Kong, son diferentes a las que enfrentamos nosotros. Las circunstancias de los países europeos cercanos a Alemania, cercanos a aquellos que están en la frontera tecnológica, son diferentes a las que enfrentamos nosotros. Nosotros no tenemos a Alemania de vecina, tenemos a Argentina y tenemos a Perú. Y obviamente somos diferentes. Habiendo dicho esto, todos ellos tienen elementos que son muy dignos de por lo menos en algunas facetas, copiar. A mí personalmente, y no necesariamente del equipo, el resto de esto es una opinión personal, a mí me atrae mucho el modelo irlandés. Irlanda es una sociedad extraordinariamente dinámica. Irlanda es una sociedad que ha creado las condiciones para ser una base de inversión de prácticamente de todo el mundo. Y lo podemos ver en la dinámica de cómo salió Irlanda de la Grecia y de la crisis y cómo salió Grecia de la crisis. Dos países que estaban en Europa totalmente endeudados. Uno subió el gasto, subió los impuestos y hizo el otro, mantuvo los impuestos bajo el gasto. Para mí, yo creo que manteniendo y siendo consciente de las grandes diferencias, yo creo que nuestra aspiración no puede ser crecer al ritmo de los países europeos como ellos los han hecho. Los países que están en la frontera tecnológica, Alemania, ellos, llegaron a ser desarrollados después de cientos de años. Crecieron a tasas bajas en forma consistente. Estados Unidos es más rico que México porque en 150 años creció 1% más que México. No tenemos ese lujo. Tenemos que generar las condiciones para crecer mucho más rápido. A mí me atrae mucho Irlanda, me atrae mucho Singapur, me atrae mucho Nueva Zelanda, me atraen cosas de Australia. Una combinación de estos países en donde generamos las condiciones para que el sector privado sea quien mueve la economía adelante, quien nos lleva a constituirnos entre los países que más crecen en el mundo, es lo que yo veo, sacando cosas selectivas para tener una economía eficiente de cada uno de ellos. Así que no hay uno, sino que hay cosas de esto, pero el modelo para mí es claro. El modelo no es Alemania, el modelo no son los países desarrollados que, siendo muy ricos, tienen el lujo de tener estados enormemente grandes y a veces ineficientes. Nosotros no tenemos ese lujo. Nosotros somos un país de ingreso medio. Ellos no son ricos porque gastan mucho el Estado. El Estado puede ser muy grande porque son muy ricos. Así que si tuviera que decirte cuál es Irlanda, Singapur, Nueva Zelanda, una combinación de ellos con las cosas que los hacen las sociedades más dinámicas y al mismo tiempo les permiten enfocar el Estado en ayudar a los más pobres.
Gracias. Ahora hablamos un poco de los pilares y los motores del desarrollo, ¿no? Porque hablamos ya de modelos geográficos, pero cada economía, como bien se observó, es distinta, tiene características peculiares. La economía chilena tiene una alta dependencia actualmente sobre la minería, que es algo que todos podríamos estar de acuerdo que es deseable que se reduzca. Pero ¿cuáles serán y deberían ser los motores de desarrollo, de crecimiento de Chile para escaparse de ese estatus de país de ingresos medios y volverse país desarrollado, que es una meta que comparten muchos países en vía de desarrollo, pero es una meta que debemos recordar, solamente un país en la historia reciente lo ha logrado, que es Corea del Sur. Prácticamente todos los demás han quedado atrapados, ¿no? en ese problema de los medios ingresos. Entonces, Stephanie, para usted, ¿cuál será el secreto de Chile salir de esto y volverse un país desarrollado? ¿Cuáles son los motores de esa economía? Creo que se refirió antes a la necesidad de invertir en tecnología, pero bueno, ¿cuáles serán los pilares de esa nueva economía chilena que Gabriel Boric quisiera construir?
Muchas gracias. Yo quería solamente aclarar muy rápido lo que dijo José Luis, porque yo estaba hablando de Corea cuando era de un nivel de ingreso parecido al de Chile hoy día, o incluso bastante más bajo, después de la guerra, después de la Segunda Guerra Mundial. Y tuvo un desarrollo muy dinámico, muy rápido, y creo que por eso es muy interesante estudiarlo. Y también uno puede mirar las experiencias escandinavas, que también partieron. Finlandia era el país más pobre de Europa en el siglo XIX. Entonces, creo que es interesante mirar esas experiencias donde se ha acelerado el crecimiento y se ha logrado el bienestar. Y sobre todo, tal vez los países escandinavos, que además tienen recursos naturales muy importantes, partieron como exportadores de recursos naturales. Yo creo, respondiendo concretamente a la pregunta de Michael, que hay que hacer dos cosas. Uno, no se puede negar que nosotros tenemos estos recursos naturales fantásticos. Entonces, pero lo que sí debemos hacer es incorporar más conocimiento, más elaboración, más investigación tecnológica en esos recursos naturales. Por ejemplo, el caso del cobre, ¿cierto? Se habla hoy día de cobre verde, o sea, cómo hacer que, por ejemplo, la producción de cobre sea más ecológicamente atractiva, y eso puede facilitar incluso en algún momento un precio más alto en el mercado internacional. Cómo aprovechar bien el litio, no solo exportarlo como está, sino que tratar de agregar valor. Cómo poder agregar valor a ese sector, a ese recurso natural. Y cómo hacerlo, de nuevo, con iniciativa pública y privada, con fondos extranjeros y nacionales, porque los recursos que se requieren para desarrollar, explotar el litio, para crear una industria importante de hidrógeno verde, son muy grandes. Entonces no lo podemos hacer un sector u otro. A mí no me gusta mucho esa discusión un poco exagerada que hay en Chile, de siempre contraponer el rol del Estado y el mercado. Yo nunca he escuchado eso en Asia o en gran parte de Europa, porque la gente lo que mira, lo que nosotros hemos tratado de hacer en nuestros estudios académicos, por ejemplo, que he hecho sobre banca de desarrollo, es cómo pueden trabajar mejor, cómo armar más sinergia entre el sector público y el sector privado, cómo se pueden ayudar mutuamente, dónde están las ventajas comparativas. Y yo creo que estos países que hemos nombrado han hecho eso, o sea, han creado sinergia entre el sector público y privado. Entonces, primero hay que agregar valor, investigación a los recursos naturales que tenemos. y que tenemos mucha suerte porque el precio del cobre yo creo que se va a mantener muy alto durante un tiempo largo por la gran demanda global para electromovilidad y otros factores. Pero también tenemos que entrar en sectores nuevos. Y hay bastante dinamismo empresarial en Chile, están todos estos famosos startups y unicornios, pero eso yo creo que hay que expandirlo significativamente, fomentarlo, protegerlo, entrar a sectores nuevos y más dinámicos y ser muy flexible. Una de las cosas más interesantes, yo creo, de los asiáticos, cómo se mueven. Cuando cae uno de sus mercados, crean sectores nuevos, muy dinámicos. Entonces, Chile podría buscar ahí, a partir de los recursos naturales que tiene, a partir de los éxitos que tiene, entrar también en sectores adicionales nuevos, digitales, de servicios.
Gracias, Stephanie. José Luis, ¿cuáles serán para José Antonio Cast los pilares de la economía chilena para que se desarrolle más rápido?
En primer lugar, yo creo que el punto más importante es que José Antonio Cast y todo su equipo cree profundamente que la forma más eficiente de organizarnos es a través de los mercados, que los mercados deciden qué es lo que hay que producir. Entendemos que a veces hay externalidades, entendemos que a veces hay todo tipo de cosas que nos impiden. Pero la situación de Chile actual es una en donde el Estado, independiente de cuáles son los sectores que a ti te gustaría que crecieran, el Estado tiene absolutamente asfixiada al sector privado. La economía, la inversión privada está absolutamente colapsada en cero. La productividad está en cero. Nosotros creemos en eliminar todas las trabas que existen para que se rompan esos cuellos de botella y empecemos a crecer. Ahora, para poder tener ventajas comparativas en las áreas que Chile sí las tiene, mucho más allá de las áreas de los recursos naturales, para poder capturar esas, tenemos que flexibilizar el mercado laboral, simplificar la estructura tributaria, cambiar la estructura de infraestructura. Déjenme dejarles algunos ejemplos. La economía mundial, en gran medida, y el desarrollo se producen cuando los países, la estructura productiva es cada vez más intensiva en servicios. Yo creo que, dada la historia institucional de Chile, el capital humano de Chile, dado los conocimientos de una más importante de la fuerza laboral de Chile, Chile podría ser una base de servicios para toda América Latina entera, pero nuestras rigideces laborales nos lo impiden, nuestra estructura impositiva lo impide. Otra área, Chile podría ser el centro financiero de toda América Latina. Tenemos las instituciones básicas para lograrlas. Cuando tú miras a los grandes países en la historia que en su momento dominaron el mundo, ya sea Japón, fue Holanda, en su momento, todos tenían un sector financiero muy dinámico que permitió financiar empresas, financiar a las personas, que permitió. Lamentablemente en Chile, lo que estamos viendo es que el sector financiero en nuestro país, que estaba anclado en el sistema de pensiones, está siendo destruido en forma muy seria por los retiros. Los retiros nos están llevando en la dirección...
Vamos a llegar al tema de los retiros ahora, ¿no?
Perfecto, pero
eso es un tema importante para tratar. Sí.
Perfecto, pero lo que me refiero es que lo que necesitamos para crecer, para que el mercado nos ayude a determinar aquellas áreas en que Chile va a ser el tigre del futuro nuevamente, necesitamos flexibilizar los mercados, aumentar la competencia de mercados y terminar con todas los pesos, restricciones que el Estado les pone a los emprendedores de Chile. Y como parte central es fomentar un mercado de capitales eficiente. Eso es absolutamente parte central. Podríamos ser el centro financiero de toda América Latina.
Gracias. Voy a pedirles a los dos que tratemos de contestar un poco más corto para que el debate sea un poco más ágil, porque tenemos muchos temas para cubrir todavía, ¿no? Y vamos a ir ahora al grano, al tema de los impuestos, que es el tema que quizás más les interesa a los chilenos. Hay aquí propuestas radicalmente opuestas, muy distintas, según lo que se ha publicado. La campaña de Gabriel Boric propone aumentar la carga tributaria en hasta 8 puntos porcentuales del PIB en 6 a 8 años, según entendemos, incluyendo un impuesto a la riqueza, un impuesto sobre dividendos, mientras la campaña de Cast quiere abolir impuestos a la propiedad inmobiliaria, a la herencia, quiere un impuesto negativo para gente de bajos ingresos. Visiones muy distintas. Stephanie, en primer lugar, quería preguntarle a usted, ¿quiere impuestos a la riqueza? Esto es una idea que han descartado prácticamente todos los países de Europa por no ser un impuesto eficaz. Los ricos tienen pies, pueden irse del país cuando se les impone un impuesto, es poco eficiente, es costoso recogerlo. ¿Por qué se está proponiendo un impuesto a la riqueza?
Yo creo que el impuesto a la riqueza podría complementar algunas de las otras medidas. De hecho, no tenemos un gran peso en las estimaciones al impuesto a la riqueza. Yo creo que demorarían en implementar. Sí tenemos bastante énfasis en reducir la evasión y la elusión, que en Chile es muy alta. En Chile la evasión y elusión es como el 3%, perdón, es el 7% del PIB. Y eso se compara con el 3%, o sea, menos de la mitad para el promedio de la OCDE. O sea, hay ahí, yo creo, un espacio, por ejemplo, mejorando el servicio de impuestos internos, de aduana, de que la gente pague lo que corresponde pagar. Yo creo que eso es un elemento bien importante. Y otro impuesto bastante importante, yo creo, es aumentar el royalty a las grandes empresas mineras del cobre, sobre todo apropiado en un momento el precio del cobre está tan alto, pero en general importante porque también el royalty chileno es más bajo que el promedio de los países que hemos estado estudiando. Entonces yo creo que ahí también hay una oportunidad de aumentar el impuesto y justamente usar parte, por ejemplo, de ese impuesto para desarrollar.
Concretamente, Stephanie, sobre el tema del royalty de cobre, hay un proyecto de ley, según entiendo, que está ahora en discusión en el Congreso, que aumentaría sustancialmente la carga tributaria a la industria de cobre. De hecho, crearía una carga tributaria entre las más altas del mundo. ¿La campaña de Gabriel Boric está a favor de esa alza en el impuesto como está propuesto en el Congreso?
No he estudiado en detalle esa propuesta, pero digamos la propuesta nuestra sería aumentar el impuesto, el royalty, digamos, a un nivel parecido al promedio internacional, o sea, no sería, y que no afectaría, esto es impuesto a las rentas del cobre, va más allá de las utilidades normales, y como el cobre y los otros minerales son propiedad del Estado de Chile, o sea, de todos los chilenos, yo creo que tiene sentido que participe un poco más de esa renta, sobre todo porque en este momento hay grandes utilidades generadas por el alto precio. Entonces yo creo que ahí, digamos, un aumento del royalty, además muy bien invertido, por ejemplo, dedicado al desarrollo de nuevas actividades como mencionaba el hidrógeno verde, el litio, que podría generar incluso buenas oportunidades para la inversión privada en esos sectores.
Una pregunta más sobre lo de los impuestos, Stephanie, antes de ir a José Luis. ¿Es realista aumentar la carga tributaria de un país 8 puntos porcentuales del PIB en 6 a 8 años? Creo que pocos países del mundo han intentado eso.
Hay algunos países que lo han hecho en ese periodo, pero yo creo que va a ser difícil, digamos, dada la composición reciente, del resultado de las recientes elecciones del Congreso. O sea, va a tener que ser un aumento de tributación negociado. Y vamos a ver, digamos, un diálogo con partidos como la Democracia Cristiana, que ahora están trabajando con nosotros, algunos de ellos, en el diseño del programa, pero además yo creo que va a haber que tener acuerdos con los partidos de centro y de derecha. Así que yo creo que la factibilidad política en Chile ahora está un poco cuestionada por la elección, digamos, hay que ver lo que dice el nuevo Congreso. Yo creo que técnicamente es posible. no es fácil, pero yo creo que es posible. Y como digo, es que el problema es, a diferencia de lo que dice José Luis, es que los impuestos en Chile son muy bajos. Los impuestos a las empresas, por ejemplo, en general, son muy bajos.
¿Y no pasará lo mismo que ha pasado en Argentina, que estuve hace poco en Buenos Aires y estaba buscando mis contactos entre los empresarios del país y encontré mi sorpresa que casi todos se habían ido? No están más en Buenos Aires, están en Montevideo o Punta del Este. ¿No podría suceder lo mismo en el caso chileno?
Yo creo que si hay una economía dinámica, si hay buenas oportunidades de inversión, si hay rentabilidades altas, no creo que el impuesto mismo sea un factor tan inhibidor. Y sobre todo si ven que la plata está bien gastada. Por ejemplo, en Europa la gente y los empresarios no se quejan tanto de los impuestos en los países en que ven que la plata se gasta bien porque tienen muy buena educación pública, tienen buena salud pública, tienen paz social, tienen excelente inversión en infraestructura, que mencionaba José Luis, apoyo científico. Entonces, eso lo beneficia. Yo le voy a dar un ejemplo. El Banco Público de Desarrollo Europeo, el European Investment Bank, financió inicialmente la investigación que hizo BioNTech, que después salió con Pfizer, para la vacuna. ¿Qué plata mejor gastada que ayudar a esta empresa a producir una vacuna que no solo beneficia a Europa, sino que a todo el mundo? Entonces, yo creo que si la plata está bien gastada, si el aumento de impuestos no es una cosa que queramos castigar al sector privado, es porque se necesitan los recursos para mejorar el nivel de vida de los chilenos más pobres y para hacer inversiones productivas. A mí lo que me preocupa mucho del programa económico de CAS es que va a aumentar la desigualdad. Porque,
bueno, vamos a ir ahora a José Luis para preguntarle sobre las propuestas impositivas del candidato Cast. José Luis, según entendemos, Cast quiere reducir los impuestos, que es algo sorpresivo, ¿no? En un momento como este, en el que parece que en la economía chilena, en la sociedad chilena, perdón, hay una gran demanda por mayores y mejores servicios públicos. Quiere reducir los impuestos, jubilar 30.000 empleados públicos, bajar el impuesto corporativo, abolir varios otros impuestos, como mencioné antes. ¿Eso es una propuesta realista en el Chile de hoy?
Déjame empezar por una cosa. Yo creo que hay consenso en nuestro equipo, y yo creo que en gran número de los impuestos, que por lo menos en el equipo, todos queremos reducir los impuestos. ¿Okay? Todos queremos reducir los impuestos, número uno. Número dos, este equipo y el equipo del candidato José Antonio Cast, como ya lo habían manifestado sus voceros antes, están absolutamente comprometidos con la solvencia fiscal. El programa del candidato José Antonio Cast contempla, número uno, restablecer la certeza jurídica en el país. Número dos, restablecer la solvencia fiscal. Número tres, crear un ambiente que propicie, facilite la inversión privada en Chile. Esos son tres elementos esenciales. El tema de los impuestos, del cual se ha hablado mucho, está absolutamente supeditado a la solvencia fiscal. Como saben, estamos trabajando justamente en definir los últimos detalles de los números. Lo que les puedo decir al respecto es lo siguiente. Número uno, el programa es absolutamente solvente. Yo en mi vida he sido muy obsesivo con la solvencia fiscal porque necesitamos bajar la prima de riesgo de Chile, necesitamos bajar el costo de la deuda de Chile, necesitamos bajar las tasas de interés de Chile. Así que el primer punto es que toda la política impositiva está supeditada está condicionada por la solvencia fiscal. Número uno. Número dos.
Entonces, perdón, José Luis, en ese caso, ¿cuál será el déficit en el primer año de un gobierno Cast?
Déjame terminar un poquitito, porque no alcancé a terminar. Bueno. Porque nuestra propuesta en materia de impuestos no solamente se refiere al nivel de la tasa. Chile hoy tiene una tasa de impuestos corporativos totalmente fuera de línea con los países de la OECD. Estamos entre los países con la tasa más alta. Es absurdo que Estados Unidos tenga una tasa del 21% y nosotros tengamos una tasa 6 puntos más alta que Estados Unidos. Así que eso déjame decirlo. Pero lo que vamos a hacer incluso es una simplificación masiva del sistema impositivo de Chile. Hay enormes complejidades que permiten, como decía Stephanie, la elusión, muchas de ellas introducidas en la última reforma. Fíjense ustedes que en la última reforma tributaria, que supuestamente iba a recaudar 3% del producto, y 10 años después todavía no lo recaudado ni cerca de eso, en la última reforma tributaria, cuando ustedes analizan los efectos sobre la base impositiva, ustedes pueden ver que la base impositiva cayó. Es decir, hay fuertes indicios, no lo puedo asegurar, pero hay fuertes indicios que la elusión, la evasión, aumentó con la última reforma tributaria. Así que nosotros vamos eventualmente queremos hacer converger a Chile a tasas de impuestos corporativos sustancialmente más bajos que nos permitan crear un ambiente atractivo para la inversión.
Ahí, José Luis, le tengo que parar para preguntar una cosa. O sea, estaba hablando de bajar la tasa de impuesto corporativo para volverlo más competitivo internacionalmente, pero habló de la carga tributaria y la OCDE dice que la carga tributaria chilena es un poco ligeramente por encima de 20% del PIB, que está casi 4 puntos abajo del nivel de Estados Unidos. Ahora, usted dice que va a reducir los impuestos corporativos en un país que ya tiene una carga tributaria bastante menor que Estados Unidos, pero también habla de responsabilidad fiscal. ¿Eso cómo cuadra? Yo no entiendo cómo cuadran esas cuentas.
Pero esas cuentas es muy simple, es muy simple. Número uno, nosotros vamos a generar las condiciones para cambiar en forma sustancial el crecimiento tendencial, el crecimiento potencial de Chile. Vamos a hacer un esfuerzo masivo para eso. En el intertanto, vamos a crear un programa económico basado en supuestos muy conservadores y austeros de crecimiento y básicamente que no incorpora en el corto plazo, mientras las medidas no ven una reducción en la tasa corporativa. Esa reducción en la tasa corporativa se hará eventualmente en la medida de lo posible que las cuentas fiscales lo apoyen. Ahora, con respecto a la carga tributaria del país, la verdad es que las discusiones, y yo me refería a comparar sistemas distintos, son muy difíciles de hacer. Porque cuando tú comparas con gran parte de los países de Europa, con gran parte de los países de otras áreas, no se incluyen cosas, en nuestro caso, que son parte de lo que en el caso de ellos está incluido, como es todo el financiamiento de las pensiones. Diciendo eso, yo te voy a decir mi visión. Las sociedades más dinámicas del mundo, los Hong Kong, los Taiwán, la misma Corea, todos estos países han crecido, han cambiado la calidad de vida de su población, han hecho aumentar los salarios con cargas tributarias cercanas al 20%, no muy difíciles de lo que es Chile, en algunos casos más bajas de lo que es Chile. Nuestra propuesta es crecer, nuestra propuesta es, en Chile, déjame decirte un tema de los impuestos. Los impuestos, la forma en que está hecha y está estructurado todo el paquete, programa de apoyo social en Chile, contribuye enormemente a la informalidad. Hay una gran masa de población modesta, informal, en donde el Estado los empuja a la informalidad. Tenemos que incorporar a toda esta gente a la economía formal. Y eso nos va a ayudar también con la recaudación.
Pero el tiempo es esa reducción que se está proponiendo en el tamaño del Estado, invitar a jubilar a 30.000 empleados públicos y cortar por la mitad el número de ministerios, ¿todo eso no va a provocar otro estallido?
Déjame decirte una cosa, nosotros estamos reevaluando la consistencia primero fiscal del programa. Vamos a construir un programa profundamente robusto en el área, en donde se contempla una reingeniería del aparato estatal. Un programa en donde contempla no solo un one-off, para el Estado, sino que contempla la introducción de sistemas de evaluación de los distintos departamentos, de los distintos programas y de las distintas políticas que tenga el Estado. No un one-off al gusto de un candidato o de otro, sino que políticas, una introducción de sistemáticamente evaluar todos. Toda la parte de reducción de las ineficiencias del Estado se van a ver en el tiempo. Nosotros, en el programa que vamos a presentar, que es muy modesto, consideramos muy poco en términos de este hecho en lo que está en el programa. Se intentarán hacer algunas cosas, la realidad nos permitiría hacer algunas cosas o nosotros, la realidad política no. Pero el programa de José Antonio Kast, yo entiendo que tú estás hablando de lo que se había dicho políticamente antes de la primera vuelta de la elección, pero ya el comando de Castro Vocero, de Kast, habían indicado que había posibilidad para hacer correcciones. Las estamos haciendo. Tanto en el área tributaria, estamos incorporando ideas de todos los sectores, de todos los candidatos. Yo llegué hace pocos días acá y tengo que agradecer una cosa. Me he comunicado con economistas desde la izquierda hasta la derecha de todos los sectores y les quiero agradecer a todos los economistas de Chile que nos han aportado con sus mejores ideas. Así que déjame aclarar esto una vez más. Empezando, y yo soy tengo una obsesión, dada mi participación en mercado, con la solvencia fiscal. Nos enfocamos, número 1, en la solvencia fiscal, número 2, en la reingeniería del Estado. Entendemos que es muy difícil, entendemos que va a ser muy complejo, pero vamos a intentar racionalizar.
Tengo que parar ahí para que vayamos a otros temas, José Luis, gracias, porque no hemos hablado todavía de las pensiones, ¿no? Que es un tema central para todos los chilenos. Está ante el Congreso ahora una propuesta para un cuarto retiro. Stephanie, entendemos que Gabriel Boric está a favor de ese retiro, pero sus asesores económicos están en contra. ¿Qué está pasando ahí en la campaña de Boric en torno a ese cuarto retiro?
Salí más o menos nomás de eso, ¿no?
Yo creo que hay en realidad un consenso entre los economistas, debo decir, de que un cuarto retiro no es una buena idea. Incluyendo, como usted señalaba, gente del equipo de Gabriel Boric. Entonces, tal vez sí apoyar el segundo retiro, porque el gobierno manejó mal en el 20, digamos, cuando estalló el COVID, el 2020, y recién en diciembre se empezaron a entregar apoyos a la gente más modesta. Entonces que tenían esa disyuntiva de violar la cuarentena para ir a trabajar, para conseguir plata para alimentar a su familia, o digamos de quedarse en la casa y sin comer. Entonces ahí surgieron estos retiros. Pero yo creo que hacer un cuarto retiro es un error, no es una tragedia, pero es un gran error, porque digamos el consumo en Chile está aumentando a una tasa súper alta, la economía está recalentada, estamos hablando del aumento del IMASEC del 15%, en fin, las proyecciones que dio ayer Mario Marcel en su excelente presentación son muy altas para el crecimiento. El déficit fiscal es altísimo, es una cosa que a nosotros nos preocupa mucho, ¿cierto? Hay que bajar rápidamente el déficit fiscal y además, digamos, este cuarto retiro no va a ayudar en nada. Ahora, lo que ha pasado es que se ha generado ahí una dinámica política, en que muchos políticos, incluso algunos de derecha, creo que le leí una declaración una vez a Evelyn Matei que decía que retiraran toda la plata. O sea, eso ya es la brutalidad más grande desde el punto de vista económico. Pero yo creo que, digamos, hay un problema ahí.
Ella metió lo de la política.
De la clase política, pero yo como otros economistas, y los políticos son los que tienen que decidir, porque ellos están en el Congreso y tienen que decidir. Pero yo personalmente aconsejaría no hacer el cuarto.
Entiendo. Ahora, en cuanto a la propuesta de Gabriel Boric, ha propuesto una pensión básica universal para Chile que costaría un poco más de puntos del PIB a 2030. ¿Esto es un lujo que se podría dar Chile? ¿Realmente eso es algo que se puede pagar? Eso parece una promesa imposible de cumplir.
Nosotros estamos, de hecho, revisando las cifras, no sé si son públicas o no, pero es una suma menor de la que usted indica, y tal vez va a haber que ajustarla menos. O sea, yo creo que desde el punto de vista de una persona que tiene que vivir en Chile, 250.000 pesos es una suma mínima para tener una vida decente, pero por otra parte, si no hay recursos fiscales, se va a tener que aumentar tal vez en una forma más gradual, porque como decía, la estabilidad fiscal para nosotros es un objetivo prioritario, o sea, va a haber que revisar. Ojalá que se puedan lograr acuerdos en el Congreso para aumentar los impuestos, para aumentar las pensiones, que son realmente misérimas. O sea, yo conozco gente que vive sumamente mal.
Pero se había hablado de una pensión básica universal de 250.000 pesos mensuales, si no estoy mal. ¿Eso sigue estando en pie o se cambió?
Yo creo que se está revisando un poco. Se está hablando, por ejemplo, de 225.000 pesos tal vez. Pero se están empezando a hacer los cálculos. Va a depender, como decía yo, de los ingresos tributarios, porque crea un problema potencial fiscal, digamos, si es que no aumentan los impuestos de la manera suficiente.
Bueno, gracias. José Luis, el candidato Kast, ¿cuál es su opinión en torno a ese cuarto retiro de pensiones? ¿Está a favor o está en contra?
Bueno, no solamente el candidato Kast está en contra. Yo creo que prácticamente todos los economistas de Chile están en contra. Pero yo creo que, me preguntas del candidato Kast, y esto es importante resaltar un hecho que refleja la visión de Kast, no solamente con respecto al cuarto retiro, sino en política económica. Yo he hablado con el candidato Kast. Yo tomé contacto con el candidato Kast antes de entrar en el grupo. Y el candidato Kast nos dijo y nos aseguró claramente, y esta es una diferencia muy marcada con Boric, los técnicos, los economistas, ustedes tienen la última palabra. Ustedes son los que dicen qué se hace y qué no se hace, y yo los apoyo. Jamás ocurriría una instancia como la que está ocurriendo con Boric, en donde, como dijo Stephanie, por razones políticas, en este caso fuertemente marcada por la influencia del Partido Comunista, por el Partido Comunista. El candidato Boric está yendo contra todos sus técnicos. Esto no va a pasar, y lo sé porque tenemos el compromiso del candidato Kast, que lo que nosotros decidamos en el programa, eso es la última palabra y eso es lo que va a hacer. Pero déjenme volver al tema del cuarto retiro. El cuarto retiro no solo es una mala política, es una política que pone en riesgo el financiamiento futuro de los gobiernos de Chile. Yo quiero dejar muy claro, yo trabajo en mercados de capitales. El mercado de capitales de Chile hoy se ha secado para el financiamiento estatal. Si prosiguen con el cuarto retiro, van a crear circunstancias sumamente difíciles para que el gobierno, sea cual sea, va a tener que continuar en cierta medida, en unos más, en otros menos, apoyándose en el mercado de capitales para financiar el déficit de los programas que necesitamos en los próximos años. Yo he trabajado en esto y les puedo decir, esto es extraordinariamente grave, extraordinariamente frágil. Está empujando a Chile a la argentinización de su política financiera. Nos está empujando a financiarnos en el mercado externo, a depender de los mercados en dólares. Si ustedes ven, desde la explosión, desde los retiros, no solamente ha explotado el costo de la deuda de Chile, no solamente han desaparecido las hipotecas para gran parte de la población de Chile, sino que ha empujado al Estado a endeudarse en dólares, lo que economistas, Ricardo Hausen y otros han llamado el pecado original. Esto es extraordinariamente grave, estamos en una situación muy frágil y yo me siento muy cómodo. En mi caso, lo que le recomendemos al programa CAS durante este tiempo va a ser lo que está en el programa. Y no nos pasaría jamás esto, que hay un grupo de economistas que son totalmente desoídos y por presiones políticas van a poner en riesgo el financiamiento del Estado
Creo que
chileno.
quedó clarísima la oposición al cuarto retiro ahí. Se nos está acabando el tiempo, entonces no quiero terminar sin una última pregunta para cada uno de ustedes sobre cómo podrán trabajar con un Congreso muy fragmentado, con una Asamblea Constituyente que todavía está elaborando una nueva Constitución, para realizar algunas de esas propuestas, ¿no? Ambos tienen en común que sus candidatos carecen de mayoría parlamentaria, están muy lejos, de hecho, de tener una mayoría parlamentaria. Hemos visto en muchos países latinoamericanos recientemente los problemas que tienen los presidentes cuando tienen un Congreso donde carece de mayoría. ¿Cómo van a poder negociar con el Congreso? Y sobre todo, Stephanie, en el caso del candidato Gabriel Boric, tiene ya una coalición muy grande dentro de su propia alianza, ¿no? Que tiene que negociar cualquier cosa antes de salir y luego negociar con un montón de otros partidos. O sea, ¿cómo va a ser posible adoptar un programa económico en medio de tanta incertidumbre sobre las alianzas en el Congreso?
Muchas gracias, muy buena pregunta. Yo ya me he referido varias veces a este problema. Yo creo que Gabriel Boric tiene una ventaja, que tiene un poco, a pesar de su juventud, tiene estabilidad estadista. Lo dijo también Ricardo Lagos cuando anunció su apoyo, porque, por ejemplo, en un momento muy clave, incluso cuando había mucha gente que no estaba de acuerdo dentro de su grupo político, él apoyó la reforma, el referéndum, el plebiscito a la reforma constitucional. Entonces yo creo que eso le va a ayudar, porque tiene esa habilidad, digamos, de estadista, de convocatoria. Pero es una situación, como usted dice correctamente, que es muy complicada. Yo creo que sería en cierta manera más complicada para el candidato Kast si llega a ser presidente, porque él va a estar en desacuerdo en muchos aspectos con la Comisión Constituyente. Incluso él votó en contra de una reforma de la Constitución, entiendo. Así que yo creo que esa parte, digamos, habría un diálogo más fluido. Pero con el Congreso yo creo que va a ser todo un esfuerzo de diálogo. Digamos, yo creo que nosotros hemos estado muy abiertos, hemos escuchado mucho a los otros partidos, y integrado a consejeros, pero digamos del más alto nivel. Yo creo que Roberto Sales...
Dentro de toda esa negociación, ¿será posible que Gabriel Boric abandone los comunistas para ponerse más de acuerdo con el centro izquierda? ¿Eso será una posibilidad?
Necesita, yo creo que hay también toda esta cosa un poco de campaña de terror en lo económico, en la cosa de los comunistas. O sea, ellos han hecho algunas declaraciones muy desafortunadas, por ejemplo sobre Nicaragua, en fin. Pero en la cosa económica yo no creo que sea tan problemática. Pero puede ser, digamos, esto de las alianzas es una cosa, digamos, a nivel totalmente político. Sería difícil para mí opinar, pero yo creo que va a ser necesario, como se logró, por ejemplo, en el primer gobierno de Elwin, que se llegó a un acuerdo de aumento tributario que fue temporal, pero que costó mucho sacarlo, pero que fue muy efectivo porque aumentó el gasto social, porque había una gran demanda. En Chile, como usted señalaba, hay una gran demanda de aumento en el gasto social, y por eso fue el estallido social.
Gracias.
Entonces, yo creo que si no se atiende, en parte por lo menos, en lo que se puede, esa demanda, van a haber más problemas sociales y políticos, que es lo que yo creo que la idea es hacer.
Entiendo. Gracias. Y el último, José Luis, el candidato Kast es un candidato muy controvertido, por cierto, tiene una base en el Congreso aún más pequeño que Gabriel Boric, está en contra de la Asamblea Constituyente. ¿Cómo va a poder gobernar en tal situación?
Ok, en primer lugar, algunas... déjame empezar por quién es José Antonio Kast. Yo he tenido oportunidad ahora, en este poco lapso, y tal vez lo primero que te sorprende de José Antonio Kast es su personalidad. Es una persona extraordinariamente humilde al escuchar. Es una persona extraordinariamente abierta a contemplar ideas, vengan de donde vengan, siempre y cuando se mantengan en línea con los principios que él ha declarado públicamente y quien él tiene. Es una persona sumamente pragmática. Sobre todo, te diría yo, es una persona muy pragmática. Muchas veces hacen comparaciones que José Antonio Cast es Trump, que José Antonio Cast no puede ser nada más lejos de la realidad. Si tuviera que hacer una comparación con alguien, yo te diría que es mucho más Ronald Reagan. Es un tipo encantador, pragmático, que escucha, y se van a sorprender por la capacidad de José Antonio Cast de interactuar con otras personas. Uno de los hechos muy interesantes fue su reunión con el Colegio de Doctores, en donde fue recibido, estuvieron muy bien, recibió la propuesta del Colegio Médico. Así que, número uno, se van a sorprender por ahí. Número dos, la verdad es que la última elección arrojó un parlamento que, en primer lugar, es mucho más importante para la estabilidad de Chile. Yo creo que existen tanto en la Cámara de Diputados como en la Cámara de Senadores mayorías. En un caso, aproximadamente un tercio, en donde tú puedes formar una base suficientemente para que no nos vayamos a los extremos más grandes. Y número dos, en el Senado, tenemos un Senado que es el más favorable para la centroderecha chilena en décadas. Así que yo te diría, número uno, el pragmatismo. Número dos, la composición del Congreso. Van a hacer que el diálogo, la conversación y el pragmatismo y la voluntad de todos lo hagan sustancialmente más fácil de lo que era con el Congreso anterior. Déjame referirme a la constituyente. Yo creo es otro tema que para mí es muy importante y lo leamos con el candidato Cast y es muy claro. Él no está en contra de la constituyente. Él va a apoyar el proceso institucional que hay en curso. Y tenemos que esperar qué es lo más prudente para saber cuál es el producto de la Asamblea Constituyente para decir si lo va a apoyar o no. Es difícil, yo estoy en la misma posición y me imagino que gran número de chilenos están en la misma posición, la cual es, veamos qué es lo que sale y veamos si eso es razonable y merece nuestro apoyo o no. Si es razonable y podemos convivir, acoge los intereses y los temores de todos los espectros de la sociedad, lo va a apoyar. Si no lo es posiblemente que no la apoye. Pero en todo momento ha sido muy claro que él va a adherir completamente a la institucionalidad de Chile y va a seguir ese proceso hasta el final. Yo personalmente no sé si la voy a apoyar o no la voy a apoyar, porque no sabemos cuál es el contenido, y creo que, me imagino, la gran cantidad de chilenos, y en este caso José Antonio Cast, está en la misma posición.
Gracias, José Luis. Y creo que ya llegamos al final del tiempo que tuvimos. Podríamos, obviamente, seguir hablando varias horas más de todos esos temas, pero estoy muy agradecido con ustedes dos, profesoras Stephanie Griffith-Jones y José Luis Daza, por su asistencia aquí. Y bueno, dentro de poco más de 2 semanas, los chilenos van a votar y van a dar su opinión, su decisión acerca de cuáles de estos dos candidatos con visiones tan distintas será el que va a gobernar a Chile. Muchísimas gracias a ustedes y a los que están asistiendo también aquí presencialmente en Londres, en el Mansion House. Gracias.
Muchas gracias, muchas gracias.
Thank you so much, Michael, Stephanie, and Jose Luis, for this very interesting conversation in such an important moment for our country. Now, I will leave the screen to the President of the Republic of Chile, His Excellency, Mr. Sebastián Piñera Echenique.
Good morning, and welcome to this new Chile Day. During the last 3 decades, since we recovered our democracy, in a very exemplary way, our country has made enormous progress thanks to the willingness to reach agreements around fundamental values, such as democracy and the rule of law, the promotion of a social market economy, and the will to advance towards a fairer and more inclusive society. Among these achievements, we can find significant human and economic development that have placed our country in a leading position in Latin America. The creation of jobs and opportunities, the reduction of poverty and inequality, the increase in life expectancy and the reduction of infant mortality, the five-fold increase in higher education enrollment, the rise of a large middle class, and a major modernization of our infrastructure. On the other hand, we also made progress towards the improvement of our democracy with measures such as gender parity when appointing candidates, the introduction of a primary system, and the election of new representative positions, such as governor and regional councils, which allow us to move towards decentralization. In this regard, the latest Economist Intelligence Unit's Democracy Index qualifies Chile as a full democracy, the highest category, and places us in the 17th position worldwide, above countries such as South Korea, Japan, and the US. Furthermore, Chile stands out for having a stable and free economy that has grown robustly and is open and integrated to the world. This is why the Heritage Foundation Index of Economic Freedom for the year 2021 places us among the top 19 freest countries in the world, well above other Latin American countries. This is the second time that I have served as President of Chile, and I think it's fair to say that this new term that began in 2018 must be divided in two major phases, before and after the pandemic. During the first 19 months of our government, we made steady progress in recovering our ability to grow, create jobs, improve wages, innovate, and invest. In addition, we made important progress in these priorities that were pivotal to the country, such as improving our health, education, and pension systems, modernizing our police forces, and improving our tools against crime and organized crime. However, despite these significant advances, alongside the whole world at the beginning of 2020, we were struck by the coronavirus pandemic, a crisis that was added to the political one that our country had been going through since October of the year before. Chile faced the coronavirus pandemic with great determination. Among our achievements, the following stand out: having tripled our critical bed capacity, having implemented a robust testing, traceability, and isolation system, having implemented an effective and flexible plan for restrictions and gradual deconfinement, having implemented an early and robust and effective massive vaccination program, a policy that has placed Chile among the countries with the highest number of vaccinated persons in relation to our population. Thanks to measures like this, Chile has been one of the countries that has best withstood the pandemic. Our death rates from COVID-19 are among the lowest in the region. We have carried out a successful vaccination process, which has already covered more than 92% of the target population and almost 90% of the total population. And according to Bloomberg, Chile ranks 8th in the world in terms of the best places to live during the pandemic. The decision we made to face coronavirus allowed Chile to increasingly recover the rhythm of life it had before the crisis. According to the Economist Normalcy Index, Chile is among the top 4 countries in the world that have most recovered its pre-pandemic normality. Our economy has been growing consecutively for 8 months, and this year, an increase in our GDP of approximately 11% is projected, while investment will grow around 25%. In just over 3 months, a new government will take office in our country. And I have the satisfaction of knowing that whoever takes the leadership of the nation will do so with a solid foundation on which they can build a better future for all. Today, I am just going to name the few milestones that justify my confidence. In the first place, we recently had our 9th parliamentary election since the return to democracy, the result of which was a healthy balance between the various political forces of the country that will require capacity to dialogue and reach agreements on public policies. This result is a good precedent for what will happen at the end of this month, when it is finally decided who will be the next president of Chile. Secondly, the political crisis that began at the end of 2019 will definitely close a cycle next year, when the new constitution that is being drafted will be submitted to a plebiscite that will approve it or reject it. Thirdly, we have increased our capacity of non-conventional renewable energy from 18 to 30% of our total capacity in the last 4 years. And we have already more than 40 green hydrogen production projects who are underway, through which Chile will become one of the 3 main exporters of this valuable resource, and we hope the most competitive in terms of price. Fourthly, Chile is preparing itself for the enormous changes that are taking place as a result of the technological revolution. We are connecting the country with a fiber optic network of more than 5,000 kilometers in length. We are leading the construction of the transoceanic optical cable, which will link South America with the Asia-Pacific zone. And we are taking major steps to very soon implement the 5G technologies in our territory. In fifth place, as a way to recover from the economic crisis caused by the pandemic and the international economic recession, we announced an investment plan of more than $34 billion in infrastructure and public constructions. In addition, we will tender more than $4.5 billion in concessions this year for new public construction, a figure that surpasses the all-time high. And finally, we have developed an infrastructure plan for mobility considering the main works needed for the next 30 years, for which an investment of more than $50 billion is estimated. Sixth, Chile's future will not only have solid foundation, but it also will be sustainable and resilient. Chile has a strong commitment with the fight against the climate crisis, and we are implementing ambitious policies to confront its causes and to mitigate its consequences. The total decarbonization of our energy matrix by 2040, the electrification of our public transportation system, our efforts to increase energy efficiency, and our efforts to increase the reforestation and the creation of new marine and land protected areas provide unequivocal evidence of these commitments that will allow us to become carbon neutral before 2050. Due to the successive crises that our country has experienced, we have found ourselves in the need to increase public debt. However, following what has been our historical tradition of fiscal responsibility, this year we approved a budget that will sustain a 22.5% drop in spending compared to the previous year, withdrawing transitory expenses and thus complying with the promise to stabilize public debt this decade. A decision that is a clear sign that Chile is a country that can be trusted. We are prepared to face the challenges of tomorrow, and I can assure you that in the inhabitants of this country, you will find always nothing less than willingness to cooperate. Our country is a fertile ground for good ideas, and it is a place full of opportunities for anyone who is up to the challenge. Today, we invite you to join our future. Thank you very much, and have a good Chile Day.
After those insightful words from the President of the Republic of Chile, I will leave the screen to the Minister of Finance of Chile, Mr. Rodrigo Cerda, who will give us an overview of the economic sector in Chile at the moment.
I'm very happy to be here today, to be talking with you. It's a good opportunity for us, the authority of Chile, of talking with you in the UK. So thank you very much to the authorities in the UK and also to all the participants that are able to be with us today, at least virtually. I would like to be there in person, but it wasn't possible at this time. I will be talking about what is happening in Chile today, and I mean what are the economic outcomes, what is in the society happening. But to be talking about that, I think we need to go back first to October 2019. In fact, in that month, we have a very large social unrest and protest in our streets, in which we have to take in account and we have to react. In addition, just a few months later, we also have the pandemic that arrived to Chile, just as in the rest of the world. So in just a few months, we have two very large shocks that affect our society and, of course, our economy. Of course, these are very large difficulties for Chile and for us, the authority. But we think we have react, and we, in some way, will get back on our track, trying to make Chile a very prosperous country. What have we done? First of all, well, we have found a democratic, peaceful and constitutionally way in which we could take account the social unrest. To do that, well, we make elections for a convention that is now working on a new constitution, and we expect that we will have a new constitution in the oncoming month, and that this constitution are going to be some new rules we are going to have for the next 30 to 40 years. In that way, we're making progress in the sense that people are starting to participate and having some way to say what they expect about our society in the future, and we're making progress in having this new constitution. But in addition, and since we have the pandemic as in any other country, well, we have made a lot of efforts in making the vaccination process in Chile, in which today we have almost 90% of our population that has been vaccinated. And, of course, since we have so many lockdowns during the past year, we also make a very large transfers for our households to make them having income to make a face to the pandemic. So we have made a very large transfers to our households, almost 10 point of GDP during the last 12 months. This is a program that we have called the Emergency Family Income, which is a very unusual program, but we think that it was necessary to make face to the pandemic. And just a few graphs here, well, just to show how the vaccination rollout, the fraction of population in Chile, as you can see here in the graph, in the graph that is to my left-hand side, just starting by the beginning of January of 2021, we almost have 10% of our population vaccinated, and today, well, we're almost having almost 90% of the population being vaccinated. Compared with other countries in the world, well, today we think that we're one of the countries in which we have made more progress in terms of vaccination, and in that sense, well, we're able to now to have less population under lockdown, and today, in fact, in Chile, almost no one is under lockdown, and in that sense, people is returning to their common life, and we think that this is one of the large progress we have made in the past month. Well, as you can see here, well, again, to my left-hand side in the graph, well, we can see the fraction of population that is under phase one, which phase one in Chile is a complete lockdown. Well, and as you can see, well, we have a large part of our population under lockdown and under phase one by the first semester of this year, but today, well, we have almost no population in that phase. In fact, we have large part of population is under phase 5, 4, and 3, which are the phases of the pandemic in which people is allowed to go out to continue working, and of course this means that we have a large mobility in our society, as you can see on the graph on my right hand side. So in that sense, well, people are trying to make again a common life. And in that sense, well, this is also very important for us because, well, people is starting to coming back to their life as we expected. In this graph here, well, you can see our emergency family income, which, as I told you, is almost 10 point of GDP, which is a very large transfer program that we are trying to provide people with enough income for them to be calm and to know that they could purchase everything they need during the pandemic. This was, of course, a very large fiscal impulse that also has as a result that in this year, in 2021, we have a large fiscal deficit. But we expect that as the pandemic start to disappear, we expect to correct this fiscal deficit in the incoming years, as I will show in a minute later. These efforts that we have made, the vaccination efforts, also the effort in terms of the fiscal impulse and the transfer to people, we think that they're making some concrete results. How, in fact, if we look to the perception of people in terms of the current economic situation, well, we can see that almost 75% of people today think that the current economic condition is very good or good. And just 13% of people think that the economic conditions today are bad or very bad in Chile. This is important numbers in the sense that, as you can see in those graphs, when we have almost 75% of population that is thinking that today we have a good economic condition, well, this is similar to what we used to have by the beginning of 2018 or by the beginning of 2014. So in that sense, well, even though we have a very large pandemic and which has a very important effect in the population, well, today people feel that the economy is working well for them. It's not just the current economic situation, but when we see that, when we look to other perception of people in that graph, we can see the employment expectation of people. Well, today almost 41% of the population think that the possibility of finding a new employment is very good or good. This number, 41%, in fact, when we again compare with other years, well, of course, we're much better than during the pandemic, in which the numbers were very low, but also these are larger numbers compared to what we used to have in 2018, before the pandemic and before the social unrest, and in other years like the 2014 or so on. So in that sense, again, people is feeling that the economy is making progress, and the economy in some way is providing a possibility for them to find a new job. And finally, if we ask people about their personal and family situation, well, again, People is today almost 70% of people think that the situation is very good or good. And this again is a number that is just comparable to the beginning of this administration in 2018, which was a year in which we have a larger economic growth in Chile, and of course in which we didn't have still the social unrest or the pandemic. So in that sense, we feel that we're getting out of the pandemic, and people at least is feeling that they're getting out, and they're getting out in very good condition. At least this is what we can see from those graphs. So in that sense, we think that the policies and the public policy we have made during the last 2 years had made a lot of progress for the population and for the economy. As a matter of fact, when we start to look at economic growth, well, today we're almost 7% higher levels compared to the beginning of the crisis in terms of economic activity. So, as a matter of fact, by the mid of the crisis, we have lost almost 15% of our production, but today, well, we are almost 7% higher compared to the beginning of the crisis. This is something that not many countries can say. In fact, if we compare to other countries in Latin America, well, Chile is just behind Paraguay, and Chile has an economic activity level that's much, much higher than other countries such as Colombia, Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, and so on. So in that sense, well, this is also very important, because as we have so large economic activity, as we can see, we can see later, it means also that people is having further opportunity in terms of employment. Of course, we have seen what people thought about that, but I will also show a few graphs in the incoming minutes. In terms of economic expansion, well, we're projecting, well, this is IMF numbers. For Chile, we're expecting an economic growth that will be almost 20%, which is much larger than what we're looking into compared to Brazil, Mexico, Colombia, and other Latin American countries. So in that sense, we're trying to make all our efforts to have a very large economic growth in this year. And why? Well, just because we want people to get back in their employment and to get out of the crisis as soon as possible. In terms of economic sectors, well, since we have made a very large transfer to people and to households, well, one of the sectors that is having the much larger economic increase is commerce, but also we observe that services and the industry are also making are in very good shape. Not in the same sense as commerce, that today is almost 25% larger in terms of economic activity compared to when the crisis started. But even though we observe that the industry and the services are today almost 6 to 7% larger in terms of economic activity to the beginning of the crisis. What we need still to go further is to increase employment. As we can see in the graph in my right-hand side, well, we almost lost 2 million of employment by mid-2020. Today, we have recovered of those 2 million of job losses, almost 1.4 million of employment. We still have to go, but we have made a lot of progress. We expect that in the rest of our administration, meaning by the end of March, we expect to have been closing almost all the gap we're still having today. We're making all the efforts in that sense. This is important because people need to get back to their jobs, and they need to have to be knowing that they are going to have a stable and a well-paid job in the future. That's what we're working for now in this administration. As you can see, well, of total employment, we have recovered almost 70% of the employment of the jobs that were lost. We still, there in terms of sector, well, of course, in services, we still have a way to go, but in construction, we already have closed completely the gap, and we expect that this is also going to be happening in our sector in the incoming months. One of the problems we do have, as in the rest of the world, is that inflation is starting to appear. And in that sense, well, we have an inflation that currently is around 6% in a yearly basis. The central bank has a target that's between 2 and 4%. So in that sense, well, we need to go back to lower inflation rates. And the central bank is starting to control the inflation rate and try to make that the large inflation rate is not persistent at all, and we hope that this will be transitory. And to do that, the central bank is starting to increase their monetary policy rate. As you can see in this graph on my right-hand side, well, of course, the central bank, which is the red, the monetary policy in Chile, which is the red line here, has increased, but still is still much lower than other countries in Latin America. So we think that if necessary, well, the central bank has still the opportunity to continue increasing the interest rate to control the monetary policy if needed. We expect that this is just a transitory shock, but of course, we, as the fiscal authority, will be helping the central bank in controlling the inflation. To do that, well, we just have approved the 2022 budget law, in which we are trying to control the fiscal expenditure to help also to control inflation. I will be talking a little bit about that in a few minutes. Well, despite despite everything we have been talking here, I mean, despite the more inflation and so on, and all the social unrest we used to have, well, Chile remained to be in Latin America one of the countries in which we have less risky economies. As you can see here, our CDS continue to be very low compared to other countries in Latin America, but not just in Latin America, also compared to our emerging economies. So in that sense, Chile remains to be an economy that is looked by the rest of the world as a very low risk economy. So how could we make all this result in the last month? Well, as I told you, well, we make a very large fiscal impulse, and the reason we could do that is that we have a large tradition in Chile of fiscal responsibility that allow us to get to the crisis with very low debt, fiscal debt, with an important quantity of fiscal assets. And since we have those two conditions, we were able to increase our fiscal deficit, to finance that fiscal deficit, and to make the impulse to the economy. So the idea, just to let you know, we have a fiscal responsibility law in which we're able to save during the good years in which the economy is growing fast, but in which we save in years in which the economy is not doing well. Well, of course, 2020 and 2021 were those years in which the economy was not doing well. So we make the decision to make this fiscal impulse and to finance the fiscal impulse. Okay, and so we think that this is one of the reasons that now we are making, or we're having those good results in terms of what the people are looking to, in terms of the society, but also in terms of our result and in terms of GDP growth and also employment. As you can see in this graph, in which we are looking to the fiscal balance that could be the effective one, or the structural fiscal balance. The structural fiscal balance is just computing the fiscal balance using the long run trend of the economy in terms of economic growth, and also the long run copper price of the economy. But what we can see here is that, of course, in 2020 and 2021, we have a very large fiscal deficit since what happened in the economy and in the world. But as you can see, for 2022, we're expecting that the fiscal deficit is going to be reduced very largely. And the reason is that we just passed our 2022 fiscal budget law, in which we have reduced the impulse we made during the 2021. So we already have started the normalization of the fiscal policy, and the reason we have started is that, of course, we will get out of the crisis with a little more debt and less assets, but we want that in the medium term we start to rebuild our assets and we start to control the level of debt. And then, well, this 2022 fiscal budget law is key in those steps. Just to show you, well, we used to have almost 25 billion of sovereign wealth fund. We use a large part of them. Today, we're much closer to 20 billions, in which we're computing what we call our FES and the FRP. The FRP is a fund used for pensions, and the FES is a fund that could use when we have economic crisis. Well, so we have used almost more than half of our sovereign wealth funds, but we still have almost 10 billions of those sovereign wealth funds, and we expect then during the next year we start to rebuild this fund in the sense that we expect that we're going to increase the sovereign wealth funds in almost 1 point of GDP by March of 2022. That means that probably we're going to have not just 20 billions in terms of our sovereign wealth fund, but probably we're going to go to almost 13 billions by the end of March. In addition, well, gross debt of the government has increased. As you can see, well, we probably are going to be closing 2021 with almost 35 points of GDP in terms of fiscal debt, and probably we're going to be closing 2022 with 37.5 points of GDP. But even though fiscal debt has increased, well, when we compare to other countries, or to our emerging countries, well, probably this level of debt is very low compared to them. What we need to do, though, is to control fiscal deficit. As we control fiscal deficit, of course, the debt as fraction of GDP will be converging to some level. We expect that the conversion will be around 40 to 44% of GDP in terms of point of debt. And in that sense, well, we will have more debt, but compared to our country will be still a very comfortable level. And as I told you, the way we're trying to do that is that even though during 2022 we have a very large fiscal impulse in which our fiscal expenditure was almost 100 billions of GDP, well, we are going to correct that number. We are going to be going almost to 82 billions of GDP, $82 billion during 2022. So this is an important correction. But more than a correction, we think that this is a normalization of the fiscal policy, in the sense that by 2018 or 2019, we used to have, as fiscal expenditure, a fraction of GDP, around 24 points of GDP. Well, during the pandemic, that number went up to almost 32 points of GDP. Now we're going to correct that number, and this is part of the law that has been already approved, and that number is going to be going back to almost 24 points of GDP as a fiscal expenditure during 2022. So we're starting the normalization of fiscal policy, and this is sense, well, this is a starting point to make a convergence in our fiscal debt in the incoming years. And finally, probably this is another topic that is relevant today. Well, as you know, we're an administration that will be ending by March of 2022, so just in a few months. We're in the process of elections, of general elections, and general elections were held in November, in last November, okay, just one week ago. We have two kinds of elections. We have, on one hand, the presidential election, and on the other hand, the Congress election. And, well, this is, of course, it was very, we have a very meaningful coverage from the international media. And the reason is, well, Chile, since we have those two very large shocks, the social unrest and the pandemic, well, we need to think is how Chile is going to continue in the future. And of course, in that sense, elections were very important. The results were basically that we end up with two candidates that will go for the presidency during December. But probably most important than that is that when we are looking today to seats in the Senate and seats in the lower house, what we're seeing is that we have a very equilibrated Senate and the lower house. We have some equilibrium in the sense that the right plus the center right compared with the left and the center left, today in the Senate is almost 50% for 50% for each of those coalitions. So I think this is very important news for our politics and also for our society, because when you have those two very large blocks or two important blocks, well, what we need to have in the future is probably that we need to have more equilibrium. We need to have, in that sense, more conversation, more participation, and probably we are going to make some changes in our laws, but probably those changes are going to be more gradual, and in that sense, well, we have more time to accommodate the economy to those changes. I think that probably the market read those results in that way, because after the election, what we saw is that the stock market has a huge increase compared to other countries. The risk of our economy measured on the CDS also decreased very importantly, and the exchange rate also has an appreciation that was also very relevant compared to other countries in the world. So I think that in that sense, well, the market is reading this result in the sense that probably we're going to have further changes in our social programs or so on, but probably those changes want to be more gradual and will require much more that people in the Senate and the lower chamber make efforts to have a very good law in which everyone try to have their votes on. And finally, when we take a longer view of Chile, a medium-term view, and we compare Chile to other countries in Latin America, in terms of risk, well, Chile continues to be one of the safest countries. In terms of regulatory and legal risk, Chile is one that's having less risk in Latin America. Something similar is happening with tax policy risk and labor market risk. And in terms of infrastructure risk, well, Chile is one of the one of the countries with lower risk. So in that sense, when we look to the medium term, well, Chile continue to be one of the countries in which we can think that it's safer in Latin America. So in that sense, well, we have made Chile has those two very important events. In one hand, the social unrest, and in another hand, the pandemic. But I think we have reacted, and we have made a lot of progress. In one hand, the reaction of the authority has made possible that we have the convention and the new constitution. This will be rules stable for probably the next 30 or 40 years in Chile. This is quite relevant. But in addition, since we have this large fiscal impulse, we're making a lot of progress in terms of economic growth, in terms of the creation of employment, and also we think that people, of course, feels those impulse, and people in some way is looking to Chile, to a country in which they could find unemployment, they could be happy in terms of personal life, and this is quite relevant. And in the future, we expect, or we think that when we compare to other countries, we are still a very safe country. And in that sense, we think that we'll have a great opportunity for Chile to be a country with stable rules, safe country, and in which we're making a lot of progress in terms of economic progress and our society. So, thanks for the attention, and we will be very happy to always to talk about Chile, and that you could make some business in Chile. We're very happy to have you here. Thank you very much.
After this deep analysis of the financial and economical situation in Chile from the Minister Rodrigo Cerda, I would like to invite to the stage to Her Majesty's Ambassador to Chile, Mrs. Luis de Sousa.
Thank you very much indeed. You've heard two exemplary presentations of the macro picture, and I'm full of really interesting data about the country that I have had the honour to serve in since March. So I certainly learned a lot today, and I hope others did too. And I really want to say how proud I am to be representing the embassy in Santiago at this, the 10th edition of Chile Day, but my first Chile Day. And it's been a fascinating couple of days. I think that particularly after last year when obviously it wasn't possible to hold it, the participation today and the breadth and interest of the presentations that we've seen has been testament to the strength of the relations that Chile Day over the last decade has been able to foster between the two countries, and particularly between our two financial services sectors, and in fostering commercial exchanges. And I think that there is only more to come. So I applaud the efforts of the Ministry of Finance and their engagement that they have had with us in an eagerness to work with us in seeking to develop the ways in which we can foster more of those collaborations and commercial exchanges. And working both in the bilateral field but also in the multilateral field, because Chile is an incredibly important partner in working with us to help set and improve the rules of the road for us all internationally. So I want to also thank Invest, who have obviously been the masterminds of this event over the last 10 years. And thank you to Jaime for the invitation to me and to speak to you today. I think the participation demonstrates how important this event has become to us, and it is just also yet another example of the way in which my embassy has worked seamlessly with David Gallagher's embassy here in London, and I'd like to pay tribute to David as well for his help and support for Chile Day, but more generally in the promotion of the extremely strong and fruitful bilateral relationship that we have today, and a fantastic platform on which to build. And I think that the efforts that Chile Day represents shouldn't go unnoticed either by the UK private sector. So if there's one thing I want to do in my tenure in Chile, it's to do even more to expand those commercial exchanges, because we have huge new opportunities to exploit under our bilateral free trade agreement, in which we're working with the Sub-Secretary of the Economy to modernise aspects of that, particularly around digital and financial, and to exploit it to its maximum, the freedom that we now have to set our own rules in our bilateral exchanges. And I think, just as Mark Menzies said earlier, our economies have a lot in common in terms of strengths and sectors, but they're also extremely complementary. So there's a lot we can do to help each other thrive and prosper. And the more that we can have dialogue between our private sectors as well as between our governments and state sectors, the better, to identify and exploit those opportunities. And I think that this is particularly timely as we are holding this Chile Day in the aftermath of COP26 in Glasgow, which was the example par excellence of the sort of collaboration that we have quite routinely between the UK and Chile. But it was a particularly extraordinary example as Chile held the presidency of the climate process for 2 years, thanks to the pandemic, and then were extremely supportive all the way through the summit. And I know that we can count on Chile for our year of implementation. And why do I say that? Because at COP26, Chile signed up to a number of important new commitments which are relevant to the areas we've been discussing over the last couple of days. And in particular, I'd highlight commitments on energy transition, on zero-emission vehicles and green transport, on zero-carbon healthcare, and of course, green finance. And all those commitments came on top of Chile's already substantial and detailed plans for reaching net zero by 2050. But all of that requires implementation, and implementation is our watchword for the year after Glasgow. So with the real work beginning, we couldn't welcome more warmly Chile's progressive agenda, including the work through the COP25 presidency to establish the International Financial Reporting Foundation International Sustainability Standards Board, the strong alignment with the UK ahead of COP26, as I've mentioned, and as a founding member of Finance Ministers for Climate Action, in which Finance Minister Serdar, I want to pay tribute to his leadership in the region to boost global climate action between finance ministries. And in the work in encouraging continued collaboration with us and our regulators, including developing ESG and disclosure rules modelled on UK standards. Secondly, capital markets. We strongly welcome Chile's listing of over £10 billion worth of sovereign, green and sustainable and social bonds in London. This has paved the way for interest across the Americas region in sovereign green bonds and greening our economies. And we certainly encourage further sovereign bond issuances in London to gain access to the UK's deep global capital markets. And likewise, further engagement between our stock exchanges to develop the green segment in Chile. And we're keen to promote corporate listings in the UK. And as you've heard today, and in the panel discussion with the great start-uppers, our Department for International Trade is at your disposal. My team in Santiago are a part of that, willing to help anyone who is interested in landing their company in the UK to help grow in that way. We also very much welcome the efforts that Chile is undertaking to further develop its fintech ecosystem through the fintech bill, and there are plenty of opportunities. Chile has the second largest fintech ecosystem in Latin America, according to the Cambridge Centre for Alternative Finance in 2020. So it's just behind Brazil, but amounting for 803.6 million, or 11%, in US dollar terms of the total regional fintech sector. And we are keen to promote further cooperation and technical assistance workshops between our regulators to enhance regulatory alignment, increase market access for UK businesses, and to enable that further inward investment in the UK. This is really an area of win-win for us both. And a key part of these efforts is around open banking. Again, really great recent progress in discussions led by regulators and the Ministry of Finance. We're keen very much to highlight the UK's commercial expertise in this area, and there's been serious interest from various UK companies to establish a presence in Chile as it develops its open banking sector. I could mention companies like Radium, OB Connect, and Open Banking Delivery. These are experienced, serious companies already working closely with Brazil and with other countries, and I think represent, again, an opportunity to open up new space, new areas of collaboration to enable even greater and more sustainable economic growth in the future. And lastly, I think it was mentioned yesterday, but I also wanted to pay tribute to the fact that over this 10th anniversary year of Chile Day, our teams have been working behind the scenes on an MOU on financial services between our Treasury and the Ministerio de Hacienda. Our officials have finalised the document that consolidates all the efforts I've just been talking about and underscores our combined determination to build further on these areas of opportunity. So it refers to work on green finance, on cybersecurity, on fintech and innovation, increasing engagement in training, experience sharing, and particularly increasing private sector engagement, led by Invest and your financial services community in Chile. So we await the right moment to sign it, but it is there, it is ready to go, and that will be a feature, again, of our year of implementation in 2022. And all of that wouldn't have been possible without the engagement of the Embassy here, the Ministry of Finance, of Invest, and all of those who've contributed to making this event happen. This is a point in the road, but there is a lot to do in between Chile Days to realise the opportunities that we all identify and discuss during these events. And I look forward very much to working with you all over the coming year to make the most of the agenda ahead of us. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much, Ambassador, for your words. And now I would like to invite to the stage to the Ambassador of Chile to the UK, His Excellency, Mr. David Gallagher.
Well, first of all, thank you, Luis, and thank you for all these months of seamless cooperation between us on a wide range of issues. Well, in Chile, we've had a social-political crisis in 2019, and we've also had, like everybody else, a COVID crisis. What I think that Chile Day has shown is that Chile is now on the mend. It's on the mend thanks to the fact that our social-political crisis is being solved within a solid institutional framework. And it's also on the mend because, as we've seen from the addresses of the President of the Central Bank yesterday, the Finance Minister today, and the President of Chile today, we have had some really good management and really good public policies. So having been bogged down in crisis for a while, we are now looking to the future. And what has been really good about this Chile Day is it has been a very future-looking ChileDay. We've had very good panels on frontier issues such as fintech, green finance, green hydrogen, which is a priority for me as ambassador. We've had two green hydrogen panels, one yesterday, which was with the CEOs of some of the most important companies in Europe, including from the UK, BP and Shell. As the President said, there are about 40 green hydrogen projects now in Chile. It's a huge interest, and all that points to a green economic recovery, which I think is the kind of recovery that we all want, and which is very much in conjunction with what the UK wants, very much in conjunction with all the spirit that Ambassador de Sousa mentioned of cooperation under COP25, COP26. So I want to be very brief, and therefore just to finish, this road to the future, I think, has very wide political support. I particularly appreciate Michael Stott's panel in which he interviewed two of the economic advisors of the candidates. And I want to thank Ricardo Lagos, Senator Lagos, and Deputies Pablo Prieto and Alejandro Santana, who have been with us throughout this ChileDay, which shows the strong interest of our congressmen in what we're doing and in this green, peaceful, institutional, solid future which we all hope and believe Chile will have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador, for your words. And now I would like to invite to the stage to the President of the Board of Invest Chile, Mr. Jaime de la Barra.
Thank you very much, Nico. On behalf of the Board of Invest and the Chilean Ministry of Finance, I would like to sincerely thank all of those who joined us in person and remotely in this 10th anniversary of ChileDay London. The first time we do a hybrid event has allowed us both to meet in person with British and City of London officials, investors, fintechs here in London, and also reach a wide audience of Chileans and foreigners, generating the participation of thousands of people interested in the Chilean economy and its capital markets. The technical and logistical challenges were brilliantly solved by Ana, Titi, Nico, Gabriel, Karina. Thank you very much to all of you for your brilliant work in making this happen. I want to thank the City of London for hosting us at Mansion House, Minister of Finance of Chile and his team, and the delegation of public and private sector officials, and especially Senator Lagos and Deputies Prieto and Santana. I also would like to thank the Minister of Energy and Mining, Juan Carlos Llobet, who joined us for a virtual event. He met with investors on green hydrogen. We also had the luxury to have the Governor of the Central Bank of Chile, Mario Malcer, meet in person with investors, students, and Bank of England officials. Thank you also very much to all of the speakers and panelists who generously agreed to participate in these meetings. It is an honor for us to have you be part of our program, and without your contribution, this would have been impossible. Thank you very much, Michael Stott, for, I think it was a brilliant interview to the two economic advisors to the candidates. I think it will be a memorable contribution to the political the political situation in Chile. I heard that it's already viral, Michael, so it's gone viral. We had panels on green hydrogen, on fintech, on a brilliant panel on entrepreneurship. All of those highlighted the impact that these new industries are having and will have in the future of Chile's economic revival. The digitalization of financial services has a big role to contribute to greater financial inclusion, as well as the ability to analyze what advantages Chile presents to become, as one of the advisors to the presidential candidate was very adamant about our potential ability to become a financial center. Our dream for the last 10 years, we hope this dream comes true sometime not long in the future. We hope that Chile Days represents another instance that generates dialogue, that contributes to the progress of our country and the prosperity of our compatriots. In this version of Chile Day, we have brought together a distinguished group of experts to discuss these essential elements of the development of the capital markets. I would also like to highlight the unconditional support of all of our sponsors, especially from HSBC, JP and all of his team, Monica, who is in Chile, for these years of support. I mean, we've been 10 years holding amazing events here in London, and it would have not been possible without your support. We also thank our sponsors back in Chile, AS Andes, Amundi, BCI, Compass Group, Caja Los Andes, Credicorp Capital, Drake Group, Frontal Trust, JP Morgan Asset Management, Boneda Asset Management, Picton, Provida FP, Schroders, and Southern Cross Group. Thanks to the Lord Mayor of the City of London, to Ambassador Luis de Souza for all of her support, Mark Menzies, especially Ambassador Gallagher and his team, again, for their invaluable support and the amazing commitment they showed to Chile Day. So we are a little bit behind on time, so I just want to thank everyone again for being here. Thank you very much.
So, right to Jaime?
I rushed out of the podium, so I was worried about time, but forgive me. I now welcome our host at Mansion House, Alderman Alison Gauman, Sheriff of the City of London and Deputy Chair of the Green Finance Institute. Thank you very much.
Well, Ambassadors, Mr. de la Barra, thank you so much indeed for spending time here. I know and have heard how well the visit and the meetings has gone, and I do applaud you for choosing here to come to the Mansion House. The Lord Mayor of the City of London started these events yesterday. I'm nearly concluding them as one of the two sheriffs, part of the team. And I want to endorse all that Ambassador de Souza has said around the close cooperation and links between the UK and Chile. And the City of London is very much at the heart of that and want very much to support all of those good relations going forward. I have the very happy task of being able to say that there are some refreshments downstairs, and I'd like to encourage you to go down there in order to continue the networking and engage with each other, and thank very much the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office who have provided the reception for us now. And I'd very much like to meet any of you who are able to stay and have a conversation. So thank you again, and best wishes to you all. Thank you.
Invite everyone to the stage to get the official photo of Chile Day.